Is he tired?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Morning Dew edition of the Dew Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobbular, of course.
Hello.
Wow, I am feeling the morning vibes today. Feeling the morning vibes. It's our first morning show in 3 weeks because we had to push it to the afternoon last week, and then the week before, Russ was in Chicago, so we were on a special schedule. So it has been a while since we did one of these. And we were
You know what else we haven't done in a while?
Tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen. Gotta get that. A cup of ambition. Yes, that's definitely called for this morning. I was up very late last night too. What's that?
I didn't even shave today.
Oh, see, I can't tell you didn't shave. People could tell I didn't shave.
You know why I didn't shave? I'm like breaking out here, and every time I shave, it keeps going away, and then I shave, it comes back.
It comes back, right?
So I'm not shaving again until we do a show on Sunday.
Oh, there you go. Now, how do you grow? Will there be like a visible shadow? You've had shadow before.
Shadow. I'll have like a small beard by Sunday.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Hey, you should try growing a beard. We want to try it.
Well, if you go back and you watch my Fairy Tale of New York video, I have the beard.
That's right. That's right. You do have a beard in that. But yeah, this is our first morning show in a while, so thank you everybody for being here. 485 strong in the YouTube chat to start the show, 396 in the Rumble chat. Let's work that algorithm this morning, folks. Hit that like button, smash that like button wherever you are. Tweet this out, share this on Facebook or whatever social media platform you use, and let's get some bodies in the space. Right now, we have a great show for you this morning. It was a late night last night. We obviously guested on the Jimmy Dore show for a little under an hour. That was fun. We got to cover a segment that we would have covered here, but we covered the two nice Jew Boy podcast content, shall we say, as well as a couple other topics.
Clip just dropped. I was just watching it.
Oh, it did? You dropped that clip already? On Rumble, probably, right?
Yeah, it dropped like an hour ago. Yeah, on Rumble, not on YouTube.
Yeah, he drops the Rumble stuff first. Yeah. So, folks, we appreciate you being here. It is a day-night doubleheader for us dissidents. Yesterday, Russ and I recorded one of the most intense episodes we've ever done. It was an interview with David Williams, who was one of the defendants in the Newburgh 4 case, which we have covered from time to time on this show. I'm from Newburgh. This was one of the most shocking and egregious examples of FBI entrapment ever. And David is one of the defendants in that case whose sentence was recently commuted by the same judge who sentenced him in the first place because she knew that these charges against all 4 of these men were fake. And so we interviewed David yesterday. It's about an hour and 20-minute interview, and we will be premiering this episode tonight at 8 p.m., premiering with a chat and everything exclusively on Rumble. That's why it has the green parchment paper, if you hadn't noticed that. Anything with the green letters and the green parchment paper background means it is a Rumble exclusive. So you got to follow our Rumble channel. If you're already following, that's great. But we will be premiering this at 8 p.m. with a chat and everything. That was one of the most intense episodes we've ever done. That is a very emotional episode. You're going to be furious. You're going to be sad. It really puts you through the ringer. But I feel very proud of how it came out. I think it was a really, really strong piece. So we're very much looking forward to premiering that. So that's at 8 p.m. tonight. Make sure you follow us on Rumble and, make some time for that. It's well worth it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you do the show for, really.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
To elevate voices like that, to throw a spotlight on that kind of injustice. It really shows you how the system works. I mean, that's what kept striking me. Like, basically what the FBI did to these guys is what the cops do to that community all the time. It's at every level of the government. In the end, they like to target people who have no money and no power because it's much less likely that they'll lose the case. They're not going to be able to hire the kind of lawyers that are going to get them out of it.
Exactly. And this was a case that they won originally. These guys were sentenced to 25 years, which you will find out why if you watch the interview this evening. But the sentence was commuted, and the reason why this became somewhat of a PR defeat for the deep state is because these guys fought the charges. They were innocent. They insisted they were innocent, and they fought the charges, which means that the evidence, which was not evidence against them, it was evidence against the FBI, that was made public. And so now all of that has been exposed. And so we get into quite a bit of it with David on the interview. That's tonight at 8 p.m. exclusively on Rumble. Please be there. Please be there. We are very proud of that. We really want as many eyes on that as possible. And what Russ said is true. That's really why you do the show, is to highlight voices like that. So every fun segment that you do is good for entertainment value. We enjoy doing them. But one of the things you do is you do the fun segments to build your audience so that when you have a serious story, you can then expose that audience too.
Exactly.
You do it.
Well, this is, I keep saying this, I really want to make prison one of my beats and mass incarceration one of my beats, along with Boeing, some of these other things I take an interest in. There's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. We were going to get her on when we were doing the Jimmy show, and it didn't work out, who did a great multi-part series of articles for the AP about prison labor. And now there's a channel, More Perfect Union. They're a fairly big channel.
Yes.
They do some really good investigative videos. And they just dropped something about how in Alabama, forget about it, Louisiana, they're going old school, man. They have prisoners work in the fields. They're literally sending their prisoners to go work in fast food restaurants. Like, your cashier in Alabama might be a convict, and they're taking their wages and just keeping them they're doing what is known in the business as a Harris. They're keeping them beyond their sentence in order to keep profiting from their labor. So maybe we'll get somebody from that channel on, because I really want to throw a spotlight on this. We have slavery. This is slavery.
Right.
We have slavery in this country. It never went away. That's really the point. We did talk about it a little when we showed that clip of Ted Kwan when I was down in New Orleans, because he talked about that, how through the 13th Amendment, we have continued slavery. That in the South, particularly, not exclusively, but particularly, that is how they got around the Emancipation Proclamation. They started mass incarcerating blacks for committing a crime. This is why you hear those crazy sentences, 20 years for stealing a candy bar, right? Because they were always making money off their labor. It was another way to enslave them.
Right. Absolutely. You may want to pull your mic a little closer to your mouth. Some people are saying your mic is a little low.
Oh,
I don't think the setting is bad. I think it's just a little far from the mouth.
Okay.
All righty, cool. Well, folks, we're going to start off our morning with a great morning segment. This is a great morning segment and a great example of a fun segment that we use to build audience so that we have audience for the more serious segments, because this definitely falls under the category of general fun. J.D. Vance buys donuts in Holt's Sweet Shop in Valdosta, Georgia. Now, this clip went viral. As you can see, 4.2 million views. So, it's fairly common for politicians when they're on the campaign trail to stop into a diner or a coffee shop or a bakery and yuck it up with the workers to show they're down with the people, blah, blah, blah. John Kerry and Ben Affleck came to a Newburgh Wendy's when I lived there. My friend was actually there and saw them there buying their cheeseburgers and proving that they eat the regular folk food and stuff like that. But this went viral for all the wrong reasons. I'm sorry. This further feeds the J.D. Vance is weird narrative. Pretty damning evidence of his weirdness here. So the people behind the counter wanted nothing to do with this photo op very clearly, and he seemed to at first take the hint, but then he kind of pursued a conversation anyway, when clearly they had absolutely zero interest in engaging with him at all. This is pretty funny stuff.
I'm sorry, man. Okay, yeah. She doesn't want to be on film, guys, so just cut her out of anything. Appreciate that, man. I'm J.D. Vance. I'm running for vice president. Good to see you.
Okay. Okay.
We're going to do...
I could not be less interested in him.
Well, just a random assortment of stuff here. How long have you worked here?
I've been here since the beginning of July.
Okay.
For this year.
Okay, good. How about you, sir?
Almost 2 years.
Okay, good. How long is it?
Good.
Just everything. Yeah, I mean, a lot of glazed here, some sprinkle stuff, some of these cinnamon rolls, just whatever makes sense.
Whatever makes sense. I'm not actually going to eat any of these. I'm just doing this to show that I can interact with regular people. But since you guys don't seem into it at all, just, fuck it, whatever flavor you want to put in there. Yeah. How long you work here? 2 years? Good. Good. What do you make? $11 an hour? And you're happy with that? You think that to make any more would be to put an unfair burden on the job creators, right?
Saving up for a house.
Yeah. Saving up for a house, right? What's your second and third job? You
do understand we need someone to do this job, but we don't believe that people doing this job should be able to support themselves.
If you don't want to be on film, you're okay.
Yeah.
Oh, just give it up.
How long has this place been around?
About 4 years.
About 4 years? Okay. How long have you been here?
A little over 6 months.
Okay, good.
Oh, so he has to act like he really wants to talk to them, even though the whole point of this was to do a photo op, right? But since they're not interested, he can't just be like, all right, I'm out of here.
Yeah, he couldn't be more uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, it's a very uncomfortable situation where the whole point of doing these stops is for the photos and the videos. And then you get there and you realize, oh, these people could care less that I'm running for vice president. Totally unimpressed. Hey, I'm running for vice president. Okay. Hey, how long you work here? 2 years. How long's it been here? 4 years. Just 1 and 2 word answers. But you can't be like, all right, pack it up, we're leaving, because you have to pretend that like you actually have a curiosity about these people and how they live their lives when he doesn't.
When we selected this place, I didn't know if it had been here for 20 years or 4 years, or you never know. Sometimes you drop in.
This is a cool story. The owner of this place, basically him and his uncle owned his grandfather's schools, which was founded in Douglas.
Oh, there you go. All right, so you got a little bit of information.
I'm so interested. You wanna go out back and burn one?
Yeah.
I'm running for vice president.
I'm running for vice president. Oh, you heard that part again.
I'm J.D. Vance. I'm running for vice president. Good to see you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm J.D. Vance. I'm running for vice president. Okay.
I'm very impressed.
This
is what I saw when I heard that this guy who had this bestseller that was stimulating this national conversation about the conservative turn in kind of rural people. And I heard he was running for the Senate. I said, wow, man, I mean, that guy, if he can speak, sky's the limit. And then I saw him speak and I said, oh, wow, he sucks. He's not a natural politician. He just doesn't have that going on. You look at someone like Bill Clinton, or you even look at Donald Trump. they clearly feed off interacting with people.
Right.
That is a quality you need to have charisma. You have to be somebody who feeds off that, because that energy translates into your body language and people pick it up. As primates, we mirror each other. If you're enthused, people tend to be enthused. And the opposite is true as well. Clearly, JD Vance does not enjoy people, does not enjoy speaking to people. When he does speak, even when he does okay, it comes off as very prepared. And
Yes.
Debate team, he has a debate team answer ready. But he doesn't enjoy politics. He's not a natural politician. Even so, he went this far, which, as we've said in previous segments covering him, I think it was a mistake. I think he should have picked Tulsi, even if not Tulsi, and I think that would have been his best pick. JD Vance was a big mistake. He's not an asset to Trump, and the only reason Trump picked him, in my opinion, is because he has a very fragile ego, and it's because he sucks. It's not a bug; it's a feature for Trump. He doesn't want anybody who might outshine him in any way.
I mean, I think there's certainly an ego element. I do think, like, when you look at Vance's speech and, you know, hitting on those populist themes, I do think Trump picked him under the assumption he was going to win the election. And so he sort of picked, like, the most logical, ideological successor to the MAGA movement, which is Vance, more than Tulsi. I mean, Tulsi is basically a Democrat, or at least she was, until she figured she can get paid more being a Republican. Like, Tulsi's not exactly in that lane firmly, whereas Vance definitely is. And so I think assuming that you're going to win and picking someone who you think is really the most distilled version of your philosophy going forward, I think that's what motivated that. And look, there's obviously a piece of it where he doesn't want to be outshined. I mean, that's common. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. If he were a great speaker, if he were a great speaker, Trump wouldn't have picked him.
Yeah. Yeah. But New York Magazine did a little write-up on this. So, and this is, you know, typical New York liberal class snark here. Last week, J.D. Vance took a break from saying weird things about childless people to visit a donut shop in Valdosta, Georgia. Presumably, the Trump campaign wanted to show off how well the VP nominee connects with regular people. Instead, it got a viral video that has been compared unfavorably to an infamously cringeworthy episode of The Office. I don't get that reference. I never watched The Office. We couldn't show it to you on YouTube anyway, so that's neither here nor there. So what happened? Vance addressed the incredibly awkward donut shop visit in an interview with NBC News published Wednesday, explaining that his staffers are to blame. I just felt terrible for that woman, Vance said Tuesday on the plane, referring to the bakery worker. We walked in, and there's 20 Secret Service agents, and there's 15 cameras, and she clearly had not been properly warned, and she was terrified, right? I just felt awful for her. Vance said that he enjoys engaging in that kind of retail politicking. Yeah, right. Yeah, he really looks in your element there. And added that he has made it clear to his staff that such visits must be planned more carefully in the future. Well, I'm sorry, dude. Like, if you enjoy engaging with regular people, then why do they have to be more planned in the future? If you're such a natural, you know, Trump can walk into a McDonald's and charm the whole place. Right? Like, you know, it's not, I don't think the woman was necessarily shy. She was just not into you, right? She wasn't like running in the back. She just said, hey, don't put me on camera. And then she came, oh, I'm running for vice president. Okay. How long's it been here? Yeah, 2 years, 4 years, whatever. We don't have to have these scripted events. I don't want to go and do 3 takes of buying Doritos at a Sheetz, Vance said, referring to a recent Harris stop at a Pennsylvania gas station. I like to get out there and talk to people, and we want to make sure we're doing it, but definitely make sure that people are at least okay with being on camera, or we're going to walk in and you're going to have a person who has practically a panic attack because she's got 15 cameras in her face. I guess he played it as cool as he could have, because if he just didn't talk to her at all, it would have been exposed that he had no interest in talking to her. But yeah, pretty awkward, pretty weird, gotta say.
Yeah, he's just not a natural. He's just not a natural politician. Look, yeah, he is weird. So are they.
Oh yeah,
so are they. Waltz isn't
They're all
weird.
weird.
Harris isn't weird. Trump isn't. They're all fucking weird. Generally, people who decide they want to run for president and vice president are weird.
Yes,
Not,
especially
not
at the end of an empire.
Person.
Ancient Rome before the fall, that was a weird place too.
Right. Why do you want that gig?
Right. Exactly. All right. Eric Rousseau, thanks for the Rumble rant. Candace Owens has also exposed Macron's wife, Shmuley. Thank you. That's a good one. I like that, Eric Rousseau. Funny. Got the jokes this morning. Let's see here. Canada, says Noah Goop, says releasing names of Nazi war criminals we smuggled in after the war will help Putin. Kid you not, look it up.
I saw like a headline out of the corner of my eye about that. Maybe we'll do it Sunday.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, no, there's a list, and the Canadians apparently don't want it released of all the Nazis that went to Canada.
Interesting.
I told the story. I won't rehash it, but in brief, the last time I was in Canada was in the 90s, and I went to Kensington Market in Toronto and bought a coat. A big, heavy leather winter coat turned out to be Nazi gear. So
that's right.
That was somebody's Nazi relative who fought in Stalingrad. It wound up in an antique shop from the estate sale, I guess.
So you became an accidental memorabilia collector.
I did. I have it in the closet over there.
There you go.
I never wear it, but I have it.
Yeah, no, it's a good call not to wear it, I guess.
Yeah. I used to.
Right.
I didn't know what it was.
Not knowing what it was. Oh, boy. JM, thanks for the $2 and the thumbs up on YouTube. Appreciate that. Eric Rousseau, thanks for the $2 over on YouTube. Wakey bakey do dissidents. That's right. Wake up, everybody. Ronald Hay, thanks for the $2. Ever read any of Gargantua and what is how do you say that? How do you say Pantagruel? Pantagruel? How do you say that? Pantagruel.
Yeah, you're asking the right person.
I figured you might know.
I would say you know I have a reader's vocabulary.
All right. Well,
I say radiator, for God's sake.
Radiator. Yeah. Radiator. No, I've never read any of that, Ronald. Hey,
that's not even like a New York thing. I don't even know where I got that from.
Yeah, you do have these kind of weird quirks where you just will say certain names weird, certain words weird. Yeah. Corey Elliott, thanks for the $2. You guys are great. No reparations though. MAGA 24. Thanks for the compliment, Corey Elliott. Fuwa Chan, thanks for the $10. Love your channel with a big heart. Well, I'll give you a big heart back.
Thank you.
Fuwa Chan, thank you very much for that. Alrighty, folks. Please, like I said, let's hit that like button. Let's hit that subscribe button. Let's get a crowd up in here today. Great to see everybody. Alrighty, let's move right along. Hey, we had some really, really, really big developments last night in the election. Former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney endorses Vice President Kamala Harris for president. Oh, what a big break for Ari Melber getting to break this news to MSNBC, the only audience who cares. But he got to break the news. Here it is.
Breaking news right now, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who played such a key role leaving Republican leadership over the Jan 6 insurrection, then helped chair the committee looking into it. She announced tonight she is voting for Kamala Harris. The Cheney name means a lot in Republican politics. And while she is associated as a critic who crossed paths with Donald Trump, she is a deeply conservative official, and she has said this matters for swing states, and writing in names of protest candidates is not enough. She will be voting for Harris.
All right, now let's see the source for this story from Emma Klein. Got a big scoop here in the audience of the Duke University Public Policy Forum, or whatever this is. Here's Liz Cheney on stage announcing her support for Kamala.
We're here in North Carolina. I think it is crucially important for people to recognize not only is what I just said about the danger that Trump poses something that should prevent people from voting for him, but I don't believe that we have the luxury of writing in candidates' names, particularly in swing states. And as a conservative, as someone who believes in and cares about the Constitution, I have thought deeply about this. And because of the danger that Donald Trump poses, Not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting for Kamala Harris.
They've surrendered to the communists.
Yeah. Look at that big applause there. They were so thrilled to hear that.
For Kamala Harris.
Woohoo! Now, MSNBC wasn't going to just do one segment about this. No.
No.
Here's primetime Joy Reid.
This is what they live for.
That's right. Joy Reid with Matt Dowd, who worked for the Bush-Cheney White House. He helped Dick Cheney do debate prep. So real public servant here, giving his take on this endorsement.
Confederacy of Republicans, which is a majority of the gutless sort of Confederacy of Republicans, which is a majority of the leadership, refuses to put the country first, like Joe Biden did in what he did a month and a half ago. And that's why they...
Okay, all right. That right there strikes me. It's remarkable how on message they are with their propaganda. When you watch these shows, you watch segment after segment, you'll see no matter what the subject is, every single person they'll bring on, every host will find ways to work in these same propaganda points to drill into their audience. Joe Biden was not forced out, was not humiliated, was not intimidated by Nancy Pelosi. No, he made a sacrifice for the country. And this is why you sit there with your lib relatives and they go, Joe Biden made a sacrifice for the country, because that's all they've had drilled into them for months and months and months. It really is brainwashing. It really is.
Well, yeah, and because they're so easily brainwashed, this was the bargain that they made with Joe Biden, as I predicted they would. They go to him and they say, listen, we could either humiliate you and do this the hard way, or you can announce that you are stepping aside for the good of the country, and we will get the message out that you are this hero, that you sacrificed yourself for the good of the country, and they will buy it because that is what we will tell them. So, yeah, that was part of the deal. That's part of how they got them out.
Sure.
We could either tell the idiots that you're the most selfish scumbag in the modern history of American politics, whose lust for power is going to hand the presidency back to Trump, or we can tell those idiots that you made this noble sacrifice for the country. They'll buy either one. It's just up to you. How do you want to do this?
It is just amazing how they get out the message to every single fucking person who goes on MSNBC and CNN. They'll all find ways to slip that in. If Joe Biden's name comes up, it must immediately be followed by he made a tremendous sacrifice for the country.
Exactly. They're on script. All right, here we go.
They don't understand it. That's why they think it's some big mass machination or something. They don't understand that there are actually some people who believe in something more than personal power or personal ego. Yeah. And Liz Cheney, I've known Liz for 20-something years. I did debate prep with Liz for her father's debate back in 2004. And I agree with you. I mean,
great
Liz
man.
Cheney and the
Great
Cheney
man. I helped do debate prep for Dick Cheney in 2004. I helped gaslight the mothers and fathers of American troops who are having their limbs and heads blown off in Iraq for no reason, that their sacrifice is worth it. What a man of great character here that they bring on.
This is the other overarching piece of propaganda that these networks inculcate their audiences with. The idea that our system is working when people like Liz Cheney and Kamala Harris are making common cause, that there's this, setting aside all the partisan stuff, we're all Americans, and they don't look at what they are coalescing around. And they are intentionally directed away from that. We were talking about that on Jimmy's last night. It's the Chris Matthews really emblemized this way of covering politics more than anybody else. Like, his show was very emphatically about viewing politics as some kind of a game, as some kind of a sport, as a horse race. And that's it. Their audiences have been conditioned only to look at it that way. It's all about court intrigue if you watch the coverage.
But and they are the cult of personality. This is the ironic thing. as we'll see here, they fully admit, happily admit, gleefully, in fact, that Liz Cheney is a very, very right-wing Republican. So if you're happy to have the support of a very, very right-wing Republican, then is this about policy at all, or is this about your Trump derangement syndrome? It's about personality. They are so personally averse to Trump that they brag about the fact that someone who on paper is actually to the right of Donald Trump, pretty far to the right of Trump, is on their side. So here they go.
At the time in 2004, they thought they were the conservatives, and Bush was less of a conservative than they were. That's how they approach it. For her to endorse in this race is not only just attacking Trump and saying how dangerous Trump is, but for her to say she's going to vote for Vice President Harris is very significant.
It's not significant because no one except your audience likes her or cares what she has to say at all. She lost her primary by 30 points. But now Joy Reid proves what I'm saying. Look at how gleefully she explains how right-wing Liz Cheney is.
Not only that, I mean, Jimmy McCain, John McCain's son, has switched parties to become a Democrat and will vote for Vice President Harris. Let me like Adam Kinzinger. Adam Kinzinger is as conservative as it gets. He is a right-winger, y'all. Let's just be very clear. He is a conservative. Here he is calling out someone else that I know that you know, Condoleezza Rice, who was National Security Advisor to President Bush, George W. Bush. And she says, I spoke with Brett Baer about my essay, The Perils of Isolationism, and why isolationism has never been the answer to the United States' security or prosperity. The world still needs America, and America still needs the world. Adam Kinzinger responded to that and said, it's time to speak up and do more. You're not fighting against isolationism. You're fighting against Trump. You need to say this out loud. No more straddling the fence, Republicans. You're for Trump or against him. Pick a side.
Okay. Why don't you pick a side? Because if you notice in his profile picture, he has that Israeli flag, obviously the Ukraine flag that's par for the course on MSNBC. I don't think you're allowed on MSNBC unless you have a Ukraine flag in your bio. So that we can look past for that. As that is a sort of technicality. But that Israeli flag in the bio, you know, Joy Reid has actually had some good things to say about Gaza from time to time. And so why don't you pick a side? Why don't you pick a side? This is the thing. They are giddy at the fact that these arch conservatives are on their side. And when you look at the modern history of America, I think it is quite inarguable that no single politician has more blood on his hands than Dick Cheney, if you believe, as I do, that Dick Cheney was basically running the country during the Bush years. So this guy who did, debate prep for Dick Cheney, and look, you could say, well, Liz Cheney's not her father. Yes, she is. Politically, she is. She has not differentiated herself from her father's politics whatsoever. So I'm not just knocking her because she's part of the Cheney bloodline. No, her politics are his. This is an arch-conservative, warmongering, anti-democracy ghoul. And the fact that you are so happy to have her on board shows you that this is really about aversion to what Trump represents personally. It's not a sentiment of any kind of political, it's not an expression of any kind of political sentiment. It is a personal sentiment.
It is in a sense. To really understand this, you have these wings of the aristocracy. And it is very important that ultimately, whether the peasants align themselves with House Bush or House Obama, that ultimately they accept the premise that these people have the God-given right to rule over them. That is really the function of these news outlets and the propaganda that they drill into their mindless viewers. That is why you're supposed to rejoice at House Bush and House Obama coming together, because in the end, it maintains the peasant mind. It maintains that admiration for your betters. So when they come together in consensus, you're supposed to fall on your knees and worshipfully rejoice at our elite classes cooperating. The message, the ultimate message, is these people have a right to rule over you.
Right. That's true. That's true. So I would actually tweak that a bit. It's not that they don't have political sentiment. It's that political sentiment is really not about the left-right spectrum that they say it is. Because according to MSNBC, the further right you are, the more of a fascist you are. But Liz Cheney, on paper, you can't argue Liz Cheney is to the right of Trump on paper. There's just no arguing that.
Of course.
And so it's really not about how far right you are. It's about how well your ideas conform to what these media organizations and the think tanks that, have outsized influence on their programming, what they view as acceptable and not acceptable. And that sort of transcends the left-right divide. Right.
And that's why every lib fucking gets giddy, particularly about people like Liz Cheney working with them. They love that shit. There's nothing they like more than that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, they are all about that for sure.
That's America working. That's why they love the West Wing. The West Wing was full of speeches like that. Yeah, she's a liberal and he's a conservative, but damn it, when you get them together, that's their whole worldview that they impart to these dumb zombies who just accept the idea that, the car's going. It's going off a cliff, but it's going.
Right.
We're going places.
Yeah, exactly. Russell, remind me, I'm going to do the patron scroll at the end of the show because I think when I shared my screen the other time, that may have been what caused those mics to pop. So I want to make sure we do all our segments before I do the patron scroll. So I'm going to write that down so we're not forgetting about the patrons. I'm just going to do that at the end in case it fucks the microphones up. Because I noticed when I did a screen share before we went live, it kind of made something pop. So that's my theory that I'm working with.
Right.
Kits' Corner, thanks for the $5 Canadian. Justin Trudeau got donuts for steel workers here in Canada, and one of the workers schooled him on his horrific tax policies on the working class. Good for them.
I think I saw that clip.
Oh, yeah? Why do I miss the Canada stuff? I'm not informed. Maybe Canada's not in my algorithm. I don't know. That's weird. Carl Evans, thanks for the 199 pounds there. Appreciate that. The super sticker. B-Man, thanks for the $2, says next George Bush will endorse Kamala. Yeah, we will see. Some people suspected he was going to be a guest at the DNC.
At all. It would not surprise me one bit.
No, me neither. Really enjoyed the
Trump humiliated his brother.
Podcast. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, they're clearly supportive of the Democrats now. Right. I don't know if they can make that work from a branding point of view, although they should, because they're not popular in the Republican Party anymore. And if George Bush actually came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, I mean, you talk about just the level of propaganda that would generate. Imagine George W. Bush getting like a week of gushing praise on MSNBC. Like, imagine that, because that's what would happen. That's 100% what would happen.
That's exactly what he gets at now.
Yeah, he gets it now. But I mean, if he made it official, yeah, that would be crazy. That would be quite the sight to see.
He hands Michelle a Halls. He gets a week of positive coverage on MSNBC.
Yeah, right, exactly. Michelle Obama, a cough drop. They go crazy. Old Stoner 69, thanks for the $1. You should help platform prison reform groups. You know you had national prison strike 2 years ago. Those people still about you have a platform. So, yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, it's an issue because of, and I'm not comparing it, but I've been arrested more than most people in this space have been arrested. I haven't been to prison. I've been to jail a lot. Yeah, man, just getting a small taste of that makes it a little easier for me to project out. Okay, what you did for 3 days, imagine doing that for 15 years like our guest did.
Yeah.
That's what's so remarkable to me. You know, like, wow, how do you, the strength of mind you have to even come back from that. Listen, man, if you haven't been to jail, it's traumatic. 3 days of that is traumatic.
Oh, yeah.
15 fucking years. Wow.
And he was in a very high security prison, so he tells some stories about his time, and it's harrowing stuff. Yeah. Once again, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're in danger for your life. You got to negotiate these very complex social hierarchies, and man, it's most of us can't imagine, and just the injustice of putting people through that. Look, nobody should be put through that. Our prison system is very punitive rather than rehabilitative. But that aside, so many people who are innocent or who have been railroaded or have been put there for minor offenses where they really should not be in a context like that. It's just disgraceful. And then you compound that with what's happening in Alabama, Louisiana, other states where these people are prisoners. It happened in California under Kamala. These people were kept beyond. Imagine being kept beyond your sentence because they need your labor. They need your labor. And you think this, when you look at things like this is what most people don't realize. You know, there's the saying, they say a liberal is a conservative who's never been mugged. And then the counter to that is a conservative is a liberal who's never been arrested. What you find out when you get arrested is those rights you think you have, you don't have them. You don't have them. Okay, go complain they didn't read you your Miranda warnings. You know what they're going to say? Yes, we did.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They can say whatever they want.
How are you going to fight that? That is how. Listen, man, the last time I got arrested, the CO said straight out to everybody, yo, I know you guys were smoking in the other cell. Now we're moving you to the next cell before you see the judge. If anyone smokes, we're going to keep you in here for a month. And you might be saying that's not legal. Well, we'll lose your file behind a file cabinet. You know how the cops lie? We can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Straight out.
Yep.
Straight out.
I believe it for sure. All right, so this is a little B segment to the Liz Cheney endorsement of Kamala Harris. There has been a lot of talk over these past few days. Some of our peers in this space who happen to be married to each other each put out their own monologues about the Bernie to Trump pipeline and the nefarious influence of independent media creating this horseshoe theory, this red-brown alliance of the Bernie to Trump pipeline. Well, the Liz Cheney endorsement of Kamala Harris brought to mind a certain other pipeline that exists in certain corners of this space, which is the Bernie to Cheney pipeline. Yes, Robert Reich. We did a segment on Robert Reich a few days ago, and you guys seem to like it, so we'll do another one. This is dated June of 2022, when he wrote a serious piece on his Substack suggesting Liz Cheney for president. Yeah, that's right. Liz Cheney for president. So here is a recording that he did of that article, just the first few seconds.
My friends, I trust Joe Biden's steadiness and judgment. And if he runs again, I'll probably back him in 2024. But today, I want to suggest for your consideration someone who isn't even a Democrat and whose positions on many issues I suspect you strongly disagree with, but who may be the best possible person to be president for the United States at this frighteningly fragile juncture in American history. I'm referring to Liz Cheney. Bear with me.
No, we're not going to bear with you. That's it. That's all the time we have for that. I love this.
At this frighteningly fragile juncture in American history. I'm referring to Liz Cheney.
I'm referring to Liz Cheney.
Bear with me.
No. Okay,
Kick it, make it gay.
Yeah, exactly. So, Robert Reich, is he exiled from liberal circles for suggesting Liz Cheney for president? Because at the time, don't forget, his rationale for this was, hey, I'll back Biden if he can make it, but he probably can't make it. And so who's the good alternative to Biden? Not Kamala Harris. No. Robert Reich's first alternative to Joe Biden was Liz Cheney. So why don't we hear any of this demagoguing about the Bernie to Cheney pipeline, about the Bernie to Kinzinger pipeline, the Bernie to Bush pipeline, or even the Bernie to Biden or the Bernie to Kamala pipeline? That's much more common. 88% of Bernie voters voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Why don't we hear about that pipeline? That's the pipeline that I think has done a lot more damage to the discourse than the fact that some of that populist energy inevitably got funneled to Donald Trump in 2016. Double the percentage of Hillary primary voters in 2008 switched to John McCain. You don't hear about the Hillary to McCain pipeline, right? We hear about the Bernie to Trump pipeline. This guy, and okay, so there's the other element of this too, because a lot of the people who are on the Bernie to Trump pipeline get accused of grifting. They get well, you're just chasing clicks, right? You're chasing anti-establishment clicks, right? Okay, Robert Reich is not a stupid man. He has revealed himself to be a fascist, an anti-free speech fascist, and a pro-establishment goon, which shouldn't be that surprising. I mean, he was Bill Clinton's economic advisor when NAFTA came to be. But Robert Reich is smart enough to know that Liz Cheney was never going to be the Democratic nominee for president. So it seems like Robert Reich boarded the Bernie to Cheney pipeline for clicks and for views and for subscribers, because surely he knew a headline as provocative as Liz Cheney for president was going to get some eyeballs on it, right? This progressive economic thinker is making an endorsement of Liz Cheney. Oh, wow, I just have to read this. Click, 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 grift, grift, grift.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't hear much about that. Don't hear much about the Bernie to Cheney pipeline.
Well, if you remember, when I went to interview people outside the courthouse during the Trump trial, I started asking if Liz Cheney, I started saying, there's been some reporting they might draft Liz Cheney to Joe Biden might step down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you baited people with that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think she'd make a very good president. She's smart. These are anti-Trump people.
Right,
these were Democrats.
Right.
Yeah, these people, they don't stand for anything at all. And, as the saying goes, don't blame the player, blame the game. I don't really blame people like Reich. These are just con artists. These are just professional con artists.
Yeah.
I blame people for not asking questions. I blame people for not asking, well, what does that mean? Liz Cheney would be a good president, or that we need to choose somebody from the Cheney dynasty, which did as much to subvert our constitutional rights as any figure in American history has. What does that mean that they're saying this is the person we should put in power rather than Trump? Clearly, it's not concern for the Constitution, or you wouldn't back Liz Cheney. So what is the concern about Trump? Putting the Cheneys in power is not a threat to our constitutional norms, which frankly are gone, partly because of her father. As we are seeing with Danny Shaw getting rousted at the airport, the Patriot Act, and this is what anyone with any sense said, what are you gonna do once these things are in place and they decide to start using it against people for domestic subversion?
Exactly.
And here we are.
And here we are. That's right. That's right. That did not take long for that question to be not so theoretical, right?
Yep.
All right, folks. Let's do a quick ad read here. This is one we can certainly get behind for GiveSendGo. Knock, knock. Who's there? Unexpected medical bills. An emergency happens, and boom, you can be wiped out. So sometimes
this thing is tearing the ass out of me.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just need a hand up to get out of a tough situation, and that's where GiveSendGo comes in. So GiveSendGo is a community-driven fundraising platform that empowers individuals to raise funds for the needs in their lives from their friends and community. In a world where we desperately need alternative companies to partner with, GiveSendGo is a company that shares your values, and if they don't share your values, they will not deny you your payout because they don't share your values. That's the more important concept. Our friends at the Gray Zone had a $20,000 fundraiser withheld from them by GoFundMe, and so we switched our fundraising from GoFundMe to GiveSendGo. We use GiveSendGo for that reason. They support free speech, which makes sense that they would be advertising with Rumble. And so ditch those other big tech platforms like GoFundMe and go to
Jesus
GiveSendGo.
likes the First Amendment.
That's right. That's right. Jesus is pro-free speech, as he would be. So, yes, ditch those other big tech platforms. Don't use GoFundMe or anything like that. Go to GiveSendGo.com and start your fundraising journey today. give it a go on GiveSendGo. That's GiveSendGo. We use them for exactly the reasons that are in this ad. They are the real deal. They don't give you any issue. They are great to work with. So, yes, if you need a fundraiser and you are of our political persuasion, if you want to make sure that your fundraising platform doesn't mess with you, they're the one. GiveSendGo.com.
Satanists welcome.
Yeah, there you go. They come with the endorsement of the Do Dissidents podcast for sure. All righty, let's go to our next story. I'll do a couple super chats actually first. Greetings from a cold and gray north of England. Thank you, Majid Ria.
It's cold and gray in England?
Majid Riaz.
Damn climate change.
Yeah. Greetings from a cold and gray north of England. I can't think of anything witty or observant to say, so I'll just go with keep up the great work. Love you guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. RB Ham, the current Dem Party is a modern version of the George W. Bush Party, two mafioso parties that love spending and laundering it through new government agendas. Thank you, RB. Appreciate that $5 donation.
All right.
Just in time, thanks to the $5, says every candidate except Jill Stein should drop out for the good of the country. Yeah, there you go. DC, thanks for the $2. Hail blood oil heiress Liz Cheney. Halla burn it down. I like that hashtag DC. Thank you for that. Cool Blue, thanks for the $4.99. Continued from 2022. Tulsi Gabbard for Republicans, Liz Cheney for Democrats. This may be an example of party coalition realignment. No matter, I reject Team Blue. Thank you very much, Cool Blue. Appreciate that. Ronald Hay, thanks for the $2. As Jimmy says, Bush Democrats. Thank you, Ronald. Sean Billy, speaking of picking the side, I think it's weird that Jimmy doesn't ask pro-genocide guest one question about Gaza, Matt Walsh, or Rob Schneider. I didn't watch either of those interviews, actually. I didn't. You watched the Matt Walsh interview, right?
I did watch.
Because he has his new movie coming out, right? Yes. Dr. Doom endorses Kamala, says Trump is a fascist. Thank you. Yeah. In 2019, the Moonies gave Cheney the Medal of Peace at their World Summit in Seoul with Cheney and 40 heads of state in attendance. Is that right?
Strangely, I believe that Trump got the Reed Richards endorsement.
Got who?
Reed Richards endorsement.
Where's the Rumble rants here? Are they copying over properly? I think they are. Yeah, okay. We have a few more.
Ben Grimm would definitely be a Trump voter.
Who?
The Thing.
Oh yeah. I would say so. Okay, Nocturnal Human. Every election in my life, when it gets closer to November, is like Dems and Reps campaigning as hard as they can for the other side. Yes. Eric Rousseau, how is it that when evil, corrupt bastard Dick Cheney's still alive, his heart transplant didn't change his heart? His daughter's a douchebag scumbag along with her new bestie Holocaust Harris.
You want to talk about kicking, only the good die young, man. Wow.
Yeah, man. That guy keeps kicking. He's got to be mid-80s by now, right? Maybe even 90s. How old is Dick Cheney? That you know what? I'm curious about that. I'm looking that up. Let's go to the Google machine. Dick Cheney.
I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Wow. So, I mean, Dick Cheney has, he's lived a long life. So I guess, the universe hasn't punished him in that way because he's lived a long life. They have punished him in the sense that he has looked 83 for the last 30 years. Like, I would assume he was even older.
That's true.
Because when he was vice president, he looked like he was in his 70s, but he must not have been. He must have been like early 60s in 2004. He definitely looked old for his age.
How old is he now?
83, which means, when he was vice president, he'd have been like late 50s into his mid 60s. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he always looked old. We'll always have that. Name My Taco, thanks for the $1. I'm calling the lefties who flipped to Kamala after she chose Walsh the timeshare left because all it took was some free lunch and some insistence. Yes, the timeshare left. Thank you for that.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I like that. The timeshare left. I'll submit that to our friend Nick, who we're going to do a post-duopoly show on the 17th, it looks like. The next post-duopoly reunion will be the 17th. We were going to do this upcoming Tuesday, but obviously the presidential debate is this Tuesday. So there you have it. So the 17th will be a post-duopoly reunion.
You know where I was 1 year ago today?
What's that?
According to
Italy. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's September. Wow.
I was in Rome.
Look at how time flies. All right, let me just clean up my exhibits back here. Now we will.
That was awesome.
Move on. We'll clean that up. All right, cool. All right, folks. Well, election season is in full swing when Russiagate is back in full swing. Biden administration hits Russia with sanctions over efforts to manipulate U.S. opinion ahead of the election. The Departments of Justice, State, and Treasury announced Wednesday a joint effort to target with sanctions and criminal charges what the Biden administration says are Russian government-sponsored attempts to manipulate U.S. public opinion ahead of the November election. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced charges against 2 employees of the Russian-backed media network RT, accused of conspiring to commit money laundering and violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act in an indictment unsealed Wednesday in the Southern District of New York. That's what they're going to try and nail Scott Ritter on. We don't know that there will be an indictment yet, but they did raid his house in suspicion of violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act. The American people are entitled to know when a foreign power is attempting to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to send around its own propaganda. I just love the framing that, like, the introduction of like anti-establishment ideas to the discourse is somehow a cynical exploitation of the First Amendment, as opposed to an exercise of the First Amendment. At the underlying all of this is just like people cannot be trusted with ideas, so we have to stop saying things to them. While the indictment redacted the names of political parties and candidates, it was clear through the documents that the Russians sought to bolster Republican former President Donald Trump and to harm Democratic efforts, who likely would have been Joe Biden at the time. Garland accused Konstantin Kalishnikov and Elena Afasneva of implementing a nearly $10 million scheme to hire a Tennessee-based company, more on this in a moment, to publish and disseminate pro-Russian content. That company then contracted with U.S.-based beanie-wearing social media influencers to share my edits, but we will find that out in a second.
Apparently that beanie was hiding a Russian handler.
Yeah, right, exactly. He's wearing a wire. That's why he's got the beanie. That explains it all. To share content on their platforms. The information was often consistent with Russia's interest in amplifying. It'd be funny, they drag him to Congress and make him take the beanie off. Yeah, that's how he's forced to appear for the first time in public with no hat.
And then you find a mouse in a plastic dome that actually is manipulating a robot.
Sir, take your hat off and show some respect. I can't do that. We have to make sure you're not wearing a wire under there. The information was often consistent with Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core Russian interests, particularly its ongoing war in Ukraine, the Attorney General said. Kalishnikov identified himself as RT's deputy chief of the digital media projects department, and Afanasieva has identified herself on social media as a producer at RT, dealing with overseas affairs and news, the indictment said. The company never disclosed to the influencers or their millions of followers as ties to RT and the Russian government. Instead, the defendants and the company claimed that the company was sponsored by a private investor, but that private investor was a fictitious persona, Garland said. The company published hundreds of videos that contained commentary on events and issues in the United States, such as immigration, inflation, and other topics related to domestic and foreign policy. At the White House briefing, when asked if high-level Russian officials were clued into RT's activity, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. believes Russian President Vladimir Putin was aware. We believe Mr. Putin is weighing in on these actions, Kirby said. The Attorney General said that the investigation remains ongoing and that the DOJ is seizing 32 internet domains that the Russian government and Russian actors have used to influence the United States election. The Attorney General made clear that Iran has also been responsible for activities seeking to compromise former President Donald Trump's campaign in an effort to interfere with the election outcome. Okay, so this reporting was out there that a Tennessee-based company had been compromised, but then this outlet called the Daily Dot connected some dots, no pun intended here, and reported that media startup from Benny Johnston, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin was secret Russian influence campaign indictment alleges. So if we look at this reporting here, a media startup from reactionary luminaries such as Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, Lauren Southern, and others secretly received funding from Russia, a new federal indictment alleges. The Department of Justice charged 2 employees of RT with violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, saying they participated in a $10 million scheme to create and distribute content to the U.S. audiences with hidden Russian government messaging. The press release from the DOJ says that Russian state broadcaster RT orchestrated a massive scheme to influence the American public by secretly planting and financing a content creation company on U.S. soil. Although the company isn't listed in the indictment, the context clues reveal it is most likely Tenet Media. So they kind of figured this out. This was not put out in writing in plain English. On its website, U.S. Company One describes itself as a network of heterodox commentators that focus on Western and political cultural issues and identifies 6 commentators, including 1 and 2, as its talent, the indictment alleges. On YouTube, Tenet Media describes itself as a network of heterodox commentators that focus on Western political and cultural issues. Its homepage highlights 6 commentators, Rubin, Johnson, Poole, Southern, as well as Taylor Hansen and Matt Christensen. The indictment also highlights one of the founders of Tenet, Lauren Chen, claiming she worked to deceive the commentators about the funding of the group. Chen is listed as a contributor on Russia Today's site, RT, which is mentioned in the indictment.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know if she's on your radar.
No.
She's one of the lesser lights of the culture war conservative commentariat.
Right. All right.
But she's a presence. Like, she's successful in that space. She does the whole, DEI, why not for Chinese people?
Yeah, right.
She does that.
So in the indictment, the incorporation dates line up with Tenet Media's creation. The indictment also calls out 2 specific commentators whose followings on social media align with that of Poole and either Rubin or Johnson. So what gives validity to this speculation is the fact that Tim Poole validated it. On October 23rd, 2023, Poole highlighted the launch of Tenet. In a hype video, Poole said, "I worked for several massive corporate news organizations. What did I learn? They lie. Their agenda matters more than the truth." And when I say Tim Poole validated that, not only, yes, did he highlight the launch of Tenet, but he recently tweeted out in response to these indictments and the speculation, "My statement regarding allegations and the DOJ indictment." He might want to hire a lawyer because some of this phrasing is a bit crude. Trigger warning, folks. Should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. I cannot speak for anyone else at the company as to what they do or to what they are instructed. The Culture War podcast was licensed by Tenet Media. It existed well before any license agreement with Tenet, and it will continue to exist after any such agreement expires. The only change with the agreement was the location of the live broadcast, moved to Tenet's YouTube channel. I and TCW never produced any content for Tenet Media. Never at any point did anyone other than I have the full editorial control of the show, and the contents of the show are often apolitical. Examples include discussing spirituality, dating, and video games. The show is man. He really needs to change the scene. That guy. I think it's the locale. I think it's West Virginia.
Virginia.
Move to a place. No insult to West Virginia. Move to a place that's a little sunnier. It's a little brighter. Yeah, I think that would be good for his dating life.
You can't build your life around a John Denver song just because you liked it when you were 6.
Yeah, I think a change of locale would really, really do him a great deal of good.
Probably. You know what I don't understand?
You get better guests too, because really, I mean, to ask someone to fly out to the middle of the mountains and drive through a coal mine to get to you is a bit of an imposition.
He pays for that.
I know he does. Yeah. But hey, Austin, Texas. That's where all the cool kids are moving now. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yep. He continues. Sorry, I just want to.
I don't understand why. I get branding. I get shtick. But do you really think that hat is doing anything for your viewership? And it's got to be really fucking uncomfortable. Like that, like, why do you want to commit to that?
I would imagine his studio is probably freezing cold because he has to wear a beanie all the time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it must be so uncomfortable. His head must be sweating all the time.
Yeah, it's got to be hot. The show is produced in its entirety by our local team without input from anyone external to the company. TCW is a separate company not associated with timcast.com or other properties. It exists solely for the production of the Culture War podcast. Okay, so here comes the crude part. That being said, we still do not know what is true, as these are only allegations. Putin is a scumbag. Russia sucks donkey balls. And to the journalists who wish to jump the gun, create their own narrative, or lie about what is currently going on, you can eat my Irish ass. All right, nicely said. Now, look, I sympathize with him to a large extent, seriously, because, it's impossible. When you're in this space, you can't vet everyone who supports your program or supports your show, and especially if their point of contact was this Lauren Chen woman who you say is this pretty established media figure, right? I mean, seems reputable on the surface.
I pulled that up. I'll screen share it with you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So this is Lauren Chen. So man, she has 572,000 subscribers.
Okay.
And you can see basically what she does. Why women hate gaming. Affirmative action is over. Trans face is the new black face. Like, that's basically her shtick.
Right.
And, I mean, this is why I say she's one of the lesser lights. Her numbers aren't great. 22,000 views, 49,000 views. She's not doing Matt Walsh numbers.
Right.
She's not one of the more successful people in the kind of woke people are ruining the country. Like, there are people who are much more prominent and successful in that space. But that's basically her space. So that's very interesting. That she was, according to the indictment, it's alleged that she was actively involved in covering up the source of the financing in recruiting others. That's how I read it, that she was using kind of her credibility in that space to recruit others to get on board.
Yeah, I mean, it just strikes me as a very dangerous sort of forum because, when you're in this space, it's really not possible to vet everyone who throws support your way. And when you see just how vicious the government can be to the point where the African People's Socialist Party is now on trial for sowing discord, helping Russia sow discord. So
right. That's why I say allegedly, because who knows?
Well, yes, right. Well, that's what I mean. Like, you have to take into consideration that this is just a political hit. And of course, they're going to mention that, hey, we're trying to crack down on Iranian influence too, so that they don't look like it's a partisan thing. But like, it
just seems like if they were going to trump up false accusations against someone, why her? She has the least audience of any of the people named. They'd go after Tim Pool if they want to trump up false charges, right?
No, but this could be a way of trying to invalidate Tim Pool, trying to put the ick factor on these larger commentators. Look, if they can't get them, they can't get them. I mean, I believe that neither Tim Pool nor Dave Rubin knew anything about Russian influence on the show. I mean, it's absurd. You just kind of dismiss that out of hand. Look, these people create the content. I believe they have editorial control of the content.
Sure.
I believe they're not, reading scripts from anyone who's handing it to them. I mean, whether they're sincere in their politics, Dave Rubin is a big question mark, but they are sincere in their economic project and their business project. This is what we put out. This is what we get paid to say, so this is the kind of content we're going to do. I believe they take it upon themselves to do that. I don't think they are consciously under the influence of a foreign government. But they say that now. They will throw that on anybody now. They threw it on O'Malley. They're going to throw it at Scott Ritter. And now, if they don't have the evidence to indict Tim Pool and Dave Rubin, which it seems obvious they do not, that's straight from Merrick Garland's mouth that they do not, they could at least try and put the ick factor on them because, look, there are other ways that they can get people silenced without putting them in jail, right? If you can successfully attach Tim Pool's Culture War podcast or Dave Rubin's show to Russian misinformation, Well, you can get them deplatformed in that way. RT got banned from YouTube after the Ukraine war started. So, like, there's a way you can shut them down without indicting them, as long as you have a bridge to some conspiracy. They can then it doesn't even have to be a matter of government coercion. The big tech platforms could just take it upon themselves to censor them on that basis. And that's why I say it's very scary, because who knows who anybody is? I mean, we have Patreon people sign up. They use a weird screen name. We don't know. And how can you vet everybody? It's not possible.
Well, now we are taking a closer look at that monthly contribution from Olga Pestrikov for $5,000. That looked a little fishy.
Looked a little fishy.
Like $5,000 a month. Wow, she must really like our stuff. With Lauren Chen, though, it kind of makes sense because she's the least successful of them. That if anyone would be compromisable, it would be her. Why would Dave Rubin or Tim Pool agree to get involved in something like that? There's no reason for them to do that.
Yeah, no, look, I'm not saying it's not true or that it's true. What I'm saying is that these are very scary times in which these sorts of associations, if they can be validated in any sense, right, can be a pretext for, at the very least, censorship. That doesn't have to go through a court of law. That's the court of YouTube. That's the court of Apple, right? And so, that is something to keep in mind, because now we are in the home stretch of the campaign. We are in the home stretch of the campaign where this stuff is going to start mattering a lot more. I mean, all of a sudden, this indictment comes out of nowhere right after Labor Day, right as the campaign is heating up. And again, I'm not saying it's true or not true. We don't know that. We don't have that evidence. We can't say that. But I'm just saying, on the creator level, yeah, is Tim Pool expected to know the source of these financing? No, that's why he's not being indicted. And to me, the risk is not that they'll be indicted or charged with a crime. The risk is that they'll be shut down.
They'll be deplatformed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or suppressed or whatever. Or at the very least, just discredited for a reason that they really don't deserve. I mean, it really is not on them to police the source of their funding to such an extent as to, like, assume someone's identity is fake, right? Like, yeah, I mean, if you're having anonymous donations for tens of thousands of dollars flood in, yeah, that's a red flag. It's reasonable to expect you'd look into that. But no, they're saying this person, they used a fake name, and they signed a contract with this U.S.-based company, Tenet Media. I mean, at that point, they've done the kind of due diligence you would expect. Like, to punish them beyond that seems like a smear.
Well, sure.
And I don't even like Dave Rubin.
Yeah, that's never stopped them before. And this is where, if speech is a primary issue for you, in the end, yeah, I think a Harris administration will be worse for speech, because this kind of shit is going to get cranked up to 11.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah,
and it is not that we're saying Donald Trump is a great champion of speech. Cracking down on pro-Palestine protesters. Honestly, I don't know that it's going to be worse. I really don't, because they're going in that direction under this regime as well. But certainly it won't be good. It's not like Trump's going to go in there and suddenly respect the rights of pro-Palestine voices. But this kind of shit, no, I don't think you're going to see this under Trump.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I think you are correct about that. All right. Eric Cousseau, Wizard of Oz, Scarecrow Biden needs a brain, cowardly stolen valor, Walsh needs courage, and Tin Man Cheney got his transplanted heart. Thank you, Eric Cousseau. Appreciate that. Eric Cousseau says Red Brown Alliance is a smear for a populist workers movement. Left-right politics is only relevant for identity politics now. I would have agreed 100% with that 1 year ago. But I think the Israel-Gaza issue has given some new meaning to being on the left. I don't think there's any real denying that. Not to say that there are no right-wingers who have spoken sense on that issue. Obviously, we're going to cover the Candace Owens, Rabbi Shmuley smackdown later. So, that is certainly, I'm not saying that no right-wingers are good on this. But generally speaking, yeah, the anti-genocide energy has come from the left.
It is just insane the hypocrisy of some of these people.
Yeah.
Just crazy. They're going to go up there and talk about Western values of free speech, and they're going to support this racist apartheid, very woke state. Very woke state, right? It's all about this protected class. How much more woke can you get? I thought this is what the Brett Weinsteins, the Matt Walshes, I thought this is what they're all against.
Right.
Having a racial protected class that gets treated differently from everybody else, except for Israel. It's amazing.
Yep. Sure thing. Here we go. Quintessential. Thanks for the donation on YouTube. Which city is safest and not because gentrify and expel the poor? Vanguard outright says Bree grifting for views. What could be inducing such harsh attack? All right. Which city is safest?
What?
I don't know. Those are two questions in one. You snuck two questions in one.
What's the question?
Which U.S. city is safest and not because of gentrifying and expelling the poor? I'm not sure what the stats on that are. I don't know what the lowest crime city is
without gentrifying. Okay, so look, even post-pandemic, in spite of what
probably Burlington, Vermont. They're a bunch of hippies. I mean, they're pretty tame up there.
But I mean, it's very, very white up there.
Yeah, that's not a major city. Yeah.
Like, it sounds like you're looking for diversity by saying you want a place that hasn't gentrified.
That hasn't gentrified.
Okay, so listen, New York, even post-pandemic, in spite of what grifting scumbag Cash Jordan wants to tell you, it's still one of the safest large cities on earth. It has a very low crime rate relative to population. That having been said, of course, there has been massive gentrification here. However, it is still incredibly diverse. It's not like all of a sudden New York turned up all Mormon family choir. It's a very diverse place nonetheless, and there are still a lot of working class immigrant neighborhoods in New York. This is what I would answer. It's not that New York hasn't had gentrification, but in the end, because of New York's nature, you have more working class immigrant diversity here than you would have in any city with a relatively low crime rate.
Right. K. Ball simping for the DOJ on their accusations of Lauren Chen colluding with Russia. Disgusting. Thank you. These bitches want Nikes. Appreciate that. So they covered this already. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10. I thought that just broke yesterday. How'd they cover it already? Are they on right now? Did you just watch them and come in here?
Who covered it?
You're saying Crystal Ball covered this. But I thought this just broke like last night. Maybe we're a day behind. I don't know. Thank you for that, though. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10. Good morning, gentlemen. I spent too much in Chicago, so here's $10. That's all right, Michael. Thank you. Appreciate you always.
Thank you.
Gen Z, thanks for the $4.99. Dems always seem to be the Republicans of 10 to 20 years ago. The ratchet effect is real. Thank you very much for that. All right, we will get to more Super Chats and Rumble Rants as the show progresses. We still got plenty of show left. We have some Israel-Gaza news here. Russell, this one is yours, so you can take this away.
All right. So the UK, a little bit of good news here. The UK says it's suspending some arms exports to Israel. Not nearly enough, but it's progress. UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government said Monday that it's suspending exports of some weapons to Israel because they could be used to break international law, a move with limited military impact intended to increase pressure by Israel's frustrated allies for an end to the war in Gaza. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the UK government had concluded there is a clear risk some items could be used to, quote, commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law. Oh, you think so? You think so? He told lawmakers the decision related to about 30 of 350 existing export licenses for equipment that we assess is for use in the current conflict in Gaza, including parts for military planes, helicopters, and drones, along with items used for ground targeting. The decision wasn't a determination of innocence or guilt about whether Israel had broken international law and wasn't an arms embargo, he said. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said on X, quote, deeply disheartened to learn of the sanctions placed by the UK government on export licenses to Israel's defense establishment. The United Kingdom is among a number of Israel's long-standing allies whose governments are under growing pressure to halt weapons exports because of the toll of the nearly 11-month-old conflict in Gaza. More than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to the health ministry in the Hamas-run territory, which doesn't distinguish between militants and civilians. And it's all okay. Get all those caveats in there. Make sure, AP. British firms sell a relatively small amount of weapons and components to Israel compared to major suppliers such as the U.S. and Germany. Earlier this year, the government said military exports to Israel amounted to £42 million, which is $53 million in 2022. But the UK is one of Israel's closest allies, so the decision carries some symbolic significance. The military affairs correspondent for Israel's Channel 13 TV said that the move could become more serious if other allies follow suit. You hear that, folks? No matter where you are, do what you can to pressure your government to cut ties with Israel. It is having an impact. Sam Perlow-Freeman, research coordinator for the group Campaign Against Arms Trade, said that the announcement was, quote, a belated but welcome move. But he said that it was outrageous and unjustifiable that parts for F-35 fighter jets weren't among the exports being suspended. The government move comes after two groups, Palestinian human rights organization Al-Haq and the UK-based Global Legal Action Network, filed a legal challenge aimed at forcing the UK to stop granting any licenses for arms exports to Israel. The case has yet to go to a full court hearing. Deirbla Minogue, senior lawyer for the Global Legal Action Network, said the government's momentous decision vindicates everything Palestinians have been saying for months. I would call this more covering your ass in case of future Nuremberg trials. The UK's center-left Labour government under Starmer, elected in July, has faced pressure from some of its own members and lawmakers to apply more pressure on Israel to stop the violence. In the election, the party lost several seats it had been expected to win to pro-Palestinian independence after Starmer initially refused to call for a ceasefire following Israel's retaliation after October 7th. In a departure from the stance of its conservative predecessor, Starmer's government said in July that the UK will not intervene in the International Criminal Court's request for an arrest warrant against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Starmer also restored funding for UN Palestinian Relief Agency UNRWA, which had been suspended by conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government in January. Lamy, who has visited Israel twice in the past 2 months as part of Western efforts to push for a ceasefire, said that he was a Zionist and friend of Israel, but called the violence in Gaza horrifying. Quote, Israel's actions in Gaza continue to lead to immense loss of civilian life, widespread destruction to civilian infrastructure, and immense suffering, he said. By the way, widespread intentional destruction to civilian infrastructure, and I don't think you can argue that's not what's happening in Gaza, even if you're a Zionist. That's a war crime. That is a war crime.
That is outlined in the Genocide Convention, to make a place unlivable for a group. That is what that is. That's what that is.
So now this is a very typical liberal measure, to be slightly better than the other guys, but not really do what's required, which would be a complete arms embargo against Israel, and to hedge on. We're not saying they're committing war crimes. We're just saying in case, maybe at some point, it's possible. Some very smart people are saying.
Some very smart people are saying, yeah. Well, this is the importance of people saying it, right? And, you look at it on the one hand as being insufficient, but then, you also look at the significance of bodies like the ICJ and the ICC. This is why we say, like, look, we're not going to lie to you and tell you that justice is going to be done quickly. It's not going to be done quickly. But it will be done, and it will be done because of things like this, right? I mean, anything that gives countries pause, this will be a slow bleed, but it's important to have these decisions on the books so that, even horrible countries like the UK and the US, their hands can be forced in certain areas. And you could lament that this is not what it should be. But that this is the path to justice. Unfortunately, it is going to be slower than we would like it to be. But this is the way. This is the way it will come about. There's, as I've said, there's two timelines here. There's the liberation for Palestine timeline, and then there's the justice for Palestine timeline. And this goes on that second timeline. As for the first timeline, is there time left on that timeline? My prediction now a year ago was that there wasn't. And when you look at Gaza, how can you even rebuild that? There's no rebuilding that. There's no rebuilding that.
It'll take decades.
Yeah. It'll take decades.
You're you're literally going to have to start from the ground.
Yes.
There's nothing left.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, I was glad we can do that story at least. So folks, thank you very much for being here. 3149 total. We got, 2,100 in the YouTube chat. Let's hit this. Beautiful. While we got some more people here, I want to plug once again our interview with David Williams, one of the defendants in the Newburgh 4 trial that will premiere tonight exclusively on Rumble. That's right. That premieres tonight at 8 p.m. exclusively on Rumble. So follow our Rumble channel. And while we are on the topic of Rumble, let's do a spot for Rumble Premium, because we definitely want to premiere that interview on a free speech platform like Rumble. And Rumble has launched their own premium version of their site. So this sponsorship is directly from Rumble, and it's incredibly important to the survival of the company. So when Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted that they felt the pressure from the Biden and Harris administration in that letter that Mark Zuckerberg sent just last week. Rumble did not censor. They held the line, and they are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to audiences like you. They're attacked in the corporate media. They are attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech, as we all know. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers alone. They don't get much of it. So watching our show there is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in the fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium, which is the ad-free version of the Rumble site. So join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription to Rumble Premium. So go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. That gives you an ad-free viewing experience and helps support the free speech cause. So if you have the means and believe in that cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium using that coupon code STUDIO. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us on the platform.
They will rally, stand up, be
right.
American.
Exactly. There you go. All right, beautiful. We are going to take some more super chats here. Brock Sampson, thanks for the $10. Put your Trump derangement syndrome to the side and think logically.
Oh, no.
Why are both parties, along with the media and Hollywood, and let's not forget lawfare, attacking Trump so intensely when he was loved by everyone? You mean by everyone in Hollywood and media? Yeah. mean, he's never loved by anyone, by everyone.
Man, listen. I said the other day there should be a book. Everyone who disagrees with me and is controlled opposition. Right. There should be a companion book. Everyone who disagrees with me has Trump derangement syndrome.
That's Trump derangement syndrome. That's right.
Our takes are very, very nuanced on the subject of Donald Trump. We don't unfairly attack him or go out of our way to attack him. We don't go out of our way to gobble his knob either. This is what I call the peasant mind. People feel a need to worship political figures and celebrities, and we don't do that. We're not going to do that. We're calling it straight. That doesn't mean we're always right. Everybody can be wrong, but if we're wrong, it's not out of some unreasoning hatred of Donald Trump in particular.
Right, exactly. Aspen Fallen, thanks for the $2. Tim, dead inside pool, LOL. Thank you, Aspen Fallen. Hobo Jesus, thanks for the $2. Pool is bald AF, needs the beanie. I know that's the general consensus. But hey, look, you can rock the bald look. And look, the guy's got a lot of money. He could just get some hair.
He should get some hair plugs. Yeah,
yeah, he could get some hair. That's another solution. I mean, I don't see why wearing a beanie in front of every camera everywhere you go your entire life is your solution. I mean, the guy's doing well. I'm sure Vladimir Putin would pay for some hair plugs. I'm sure he would happily write that off.
They got that Rogaine now.
Yeah, they got the Rogaine now. Exactly. There you go. Okay, let's go here. Kenman G, if you bring up people being uncritical about politics, they tell you it's about feeling good and not being angry. True in high school politics also. Thank you, Kenman G. Appreciate that. Eric Rousseau, my Pod Loves Genocide podcast comment referred to those two disgusting Israelis. Basking in genocidal joy on their podcast. Yeah, Pod Loves Genocide. That would be a good name.
That was unbelievable. When we did it on Jimmy's, I was really shocked. Like, you couldn't see me backstage, but I had not seen the second two clips he played.
Yeah.
I could not fucking believe what I was hearing. It was worse than the first. It just kept getting worse.
Oh, yeah. Keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Absolutely. Just absolutely shocking stuff. Guys, Americans are the most brainwashed people on earth, with all due respect. Yeah.
That's my experience from my travels. Absolutely. No disagreement here.
And even the Israel issue is kind of Zionism is a cult of brainwashing, obviously, but the American Zionists are less hip to the fact that Netanyahu is to blame for the negotiations falling apart than the Israelis are. I mean, even they see through it more than what the American Zionists do. Yeah, so that's a point in your favor, my friend. Hillary Hinton, let's talk about something important. Did the real Paul McCartney die in 1966? Thank you.
I'll have to, man, I kind of ghosted him. I was having a conversation with Sean Lennon. I gotta get back to him, and maybe I'll ask him that if we get him on the show.
Yeah, there's an idea. I dig that idea. Thanks for the $10 on YouTube. Russell and Keaton, thank you for being independent thinkers. It often feels like we're all living scenes out of They Live, where conformity is the norm and questioning the narrative is rare. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, why don't we keep going along here? All right, folks. School is back in session. School is back in session, which means protests are back in season. Our friends at Hotspot curated these videos here. First day of class, and Columbia students are already back at it. Here's some scenes from the first day of school.
Boss. Yo.
So they're back. There was a question, what's going to happen when school's back? Well, classes and protests resume at Columbia and other campuses. So that video was of the Columbia campus and the surrounding streets, but it seems like the protests are back at campuses around the country. Students were lying in the grass at Columbia University on the first day of classes Tuesday, posing for photos with the furry lion mascot in the center of campus and lining up for free cups of lemon and raspberry sorbet. But as people were enjoying the sunshine on the steps of the school's administration building midday, someone splashed red paint onto the school's iconic alma mater sculpture. It dripped down like blood onto her face, over her carved robes, and down the granite steps. Oh my God. Just outside the school's gates on Broadway, one of the few entrances to the Morningside campus that wasn't locked, open only to the people with a school ID and their pre-registered guests, dozens of protesters, some wearing keffiyehs covering all but their eyes, marched to a pulse of heavy drum beats, chanting about the Palestinian territories and ringing bells. They yelled at people not to cross the picket line. We saw some of that on that video. This is the statue that they were mentioning there. Protesters asked students to put aside their excitement for the new school year. While you're learning, Gaza's burning. A line from a leaflet read in all caps. In the months since the Ivy League school erupted into chaos this spring, galvanizing a national protest movement and federal scrutiny, thousands of students, faculty, and alumni and lawmakers have wondered, what next? So far, the answer is more protests, such as those at the University of Michigan and Cornell University last week, that kicked off with the start of fall classes, but were not nearly as intense as those that occurred at the end of last school year. Other schools that faced heated protests in the spring, such as the University of Southern California, have, like Columbia, also tightened security. USC's 24/7 secured perimeter will be in place for the foreseeable future, according to a recent announcement. Some Columbia students said they think peace and trust on campus will depend on whether police are called to disband protests, and wondered whether protesters are strategizing ways to cause enough disruption to attract attention to their cause. They disagreed on the extent of the disruption, with some students saying they found the current protest intimidating, some applauding it, and others saying it didn't interrupt classes or events on the school's lawn. The university's interim president, who welcomed them to the new academic year, helped serve ice cream Tuesday afternoon. Several students said they were more annoyed by security restrictions that delayed them getting to class than the protests. Yes, we'll talk about that in a moment. A spokesman for the city police confirmed a small number of arrests were made, but said he did not yet have a final tally. Next week could bring another wave of protests. The National Students for Justice in Palestine, the SJP, have called for a day of action on September 12th. Elizabeth Howell-Egan, a third-year law student who is the USC SJP spokesperson, said protesters are steadfast and tension is still in the air because last school year ended on such a bad note. USC, she said, wants people to be civically engaged and be involved in the democratic process, but again, only when it's not disruptive, only when it's approved. At UCLA, which saw some of the most intense protests this spring, Adam Tafili, a Lebanese junior and UCLA's new student body president, the first Arab and international student in the position, said he is very pro-Palestinian, but his role is to represent everyone. Columbia was the first domino, but other campuses now realize how unique we are, he said. Change here will look different than change elsewhere. As workers hosed paint off the alma mater sculpture, then vacuumed up the mess, Alexandra Rapp questioned why there were so many security officers stationed around. I wanted to be hopeful, she said. At her college last year, she documented protests as a photographer. On Tuesday, she was disappointed by the difficulty getting in. The line to get into campus was insane, she said. I didn't really love that energy. Yeah, one of the things that is going to maybe zap the protests this year and also depopularize them, which is something that you have to be concerned about, because obviously full applause to these kids who just got right back out there and picked up where they left off, is the security. You mentioned, Russell, this definitely stuck in my mind as I was putting this piece together. You mentioned you live right near the City College campus, which put up fencing and, security perimeters during the protest. Those have not come down. In fact, that campus is not passable. I know the City College campus. I have a couple friends who went there. It's a beautiful campus, great place to just walk around for an afternoon. You can't do that anymore. It's now a police zone. And so that's going to affect the protest too. Just the presence of security, both in terms of security personnel and security infrastructure, making these campuses ultimately less pleasant spaces to be for students and for people who live in the area. I know people would walk through City College all the time. It's a beautiful place to take a walk. Now you can't do it, right? They're turning it into a police state because of these protests.
Yeah, City College, because it's really right off St. Nicholas Park, functions as an extension of St. Nicholas Park, or it did. So if you took a walk through St. Nicholas Park, you could just take a walk through the campus, another kind of nice green space. And now it's all fenced. All these universities are green zones now. You can't go in them without a student or a faculty ID. How much of a chilling effect is that going to have? They had this protest outside the gates instead of inside the campus. So you could wind up seeing that. It's too soon to say. I would be more concerned about what NYU is doing, and I think that could be the beginning of a trend where they have changed their campus policies to define, quote, certain types of anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism.
Right. Yes. And
they could make rule changes like that to just start expelling people.
Yeah. I mean, they could do that because now they've had an off session to sort of prepare. Okay, what are we going to do about this now? Right. That's something that, you really have to think about moving forward. Okay. This is not something that has caught them by surprise, because don't forget, you don't get that big a break between the fall and the spring semester. That's 3 weeks, right? Now, a lot of these administrations now are different, right? I mean, Colombia, you have a new president, so it's a question mark, how they will deal with that. But one thing that's not a question mark is that they're anticipating protests now, and they have beefed up security on these campuses now. And that is not just a way to physically suppress the protest, but it is a way to demoralize students against protesting. And it's a way to sort of turn public opinion against the protest too, because now, look, you're making life less pleasant on campus and around campus, especially in these urban campuses, which are very much integrated into the surrounding neighborhood. I mean, Columbia is a staple of Morningside Heights, right? So if you're going to make it a less pleasant place to live, that's a way of sort of trying to turn public opinion against these protest movements. Now, the irony is, if you force it outside the gates of campus, now you're forcing it into the neighborhood.
You're forcing it into the streets.
Right? So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Well, maybe you also push a conversation about elite overproduction and the fact that these colleges are charging exorbitant amounts of money for no good reason at all.
Well, yeah,
maybe more of them decide they don't want to go to these schools. We covered this, I think, on Jimmy's show, how a lot of Gen Z are instead of learning to code, they're learning to weld.
Right.
If you really want a job, hey, anyone from a working class background already knew this. A lot of blue collar jobs pay a lot better than most white collar jobs. Most white collar jobs, they don't pay that well. Most white collar jobs, like middle management, working in offices, most of them are not doctors and lawyers. And even not all lawyers make the kind of money you think lawyers make. That's a certain cadre of lawyers in certain areas of law that make crazy bank. If you're a really experienced welder, you're making some serious fucking money. Electricians kill. Carpenters, they kill. Unless you have a passion, which most people don't. They go to school and they think, oh, if I go into IT, I'm going to make money. It's not that they have a passion for IT. If that's really what it's about for you, you might as well go become an electrician, one of these jobs. You're going to have more freedom and you're going to make just as much, if not probably more money. if that's really what's driving you.
Yes. Agreed. Good point, Charles. All right, let's do some more super chats here and Rumble Rants.
And no student debt.
Yes, that's a big one too. Lauren Chen, actually sensible with anti-war positions, more than only a cultural warrior, not a Zionist. Is that true? I never heard of her.
I've never seen her. I can't say no. I've never seen her cover anything like that. The only things I see her cover, I mean, you can see what the titles are on her page. It's not "Stop the War."
Right.
Titles are all "What's with this trans with the bulge?"
Right.
That's what she covers. You know?
Right.
It is.
Okay. Artie Blarty Fart Blast. Thanks for the $7.99. Reed Richards endorses Kamala because Disney threatened to recast him as a racially diverse woman. Thank you, Artie Blarty Fart Blast. Thank you. Andre Torres.
They cast what's his name? They cast the guy they cast in everything now. The guy from The Mandalorian and The Last of Us, Pedro Pascal.
They
cast him as Reed Richards.
That guy's big now. Andres Torres, thanks for the $1.99. El Paso, Texas is one of the safest cities in the United States. Interesting. I did not know that.
Is it?
Angry Bird, thanks for the 20 pounds. Appreciate that super sticker. Infrared, thanks for the 20 Canadian dollars. Appreciate that. By the way, Ilan Pape is coming out with a new book on Israel lobbies next week. Might be a good idea to do a book club thing and talk about it on the show afterwards. Maybe even get Ilan on for an interview. Cheers, boys.
I tried to get him on. I never heard back. Now, I can't guarantee, because this was just from Google sleuthing, I can't guarantee the email that I got reached him. But yes, we are trying to get him. And I assume you mentioned that because I have the book back there. That is, of anything I've read about this subject, that is the book I would most recommend if you really want a book that's concise, that will give you a grounding in what Israel is and how it got that way. 10 Myths About Israel, Ilan Pape. Best thing I've read on the subject.
Yep. There you go. You plugged that on the JD show yesterday. So maybe that'll move some copies. But yeah, no, I mean, the fact that he has a new book.
That's why I put it back here now.
Well, yeah, and the fact that he has a new book out may be an opportunity to have him on. I mean, what's a new book without a book tour, right?
Yep.
Let's see here.
That's really good. I'm glad. Thanks for telling us that, because I'll reach out to the publisher, because usually they have a media person who's lining up interviews.
Right. Okay, cool. Hello, fellow American patriot. Here's some Renmi dollars for your hard-hitting investigative journalism, shining a light on the glory of best Korea. Thank you. Back from the road. Appreciate that. So Judy Denmark, thanks for the $10. So Keir Starmer has no guts, balls, or brains. This is the most gutless, useless excuse for a sanction ever. He's making a pathetic attempt to get some other country to actually do something. Thank you, Judy Denmark. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Noah Goop. Israel's Netanyahu demands open-ended control of Gaza's border with Egypt. Toronto Star. If you look this up, you'll see Netanyahu standing in front of a map with no West Bank. Bad omen, in my opinion. Yes, we were going to actually cover that today, but I just found it to be not too complicated, but I think that would be a longer piece. So we might do that on Sunday when we do a little bit of a longer show generally. Because you really have to get into like what the Philadelphia corridor is and why it's been this point of contention. It's more of like not a historical piece, but there's a lot of context there you got to add in. It might take some time. So we'll probably do that on Sunday, because I do want to do that. That was definitely in consideration for today, but it got bumped for J.D. Vance's donut shop visit. We thought that was...
We got to cover the important stuff.
Hey, it's a morning show. You got to have a donut segment. If you're going to do a donut store, you got to do it in the morning. So we figure we'll do that, and then we'll move the other one to Sunday. Alrighty, folks. So this was quite something to see. This was Candace Owens on the Piers Morgan show in a debate with Rabbi Shmuley. Now, you know, people sometimes look to us as two Jewish guys to debunk Zionism. Max and Aaron at the Gray Zone, two Jewish guys to debunk Zionism. Well, apparently... Candace Owens is pretty good at it too, and she is not a Jewish guy like us.
She's able to bring the full-on Jesus rage.
Yeah, right. Exactly. She makes this work pretty well. This is a monologue that went somewhat viral for good reason.
October 7th, I don't think prior to October 7th, I don't think many people were engaged with what is happening in Israel. You know, we kind of all said the same thing. Israel is our friend and ally. I count myself among those people. Post October 7th, the world, and especially I would say Zionists in media, were demanding that we all pay attention. And when we began to pay attention, we didn't like what we saw. You cannot tell me to ever feel comfortable with 18,000 children being ruthlessly murdered. You can't get me to feel comfortable as a Christian with the amount of more explosives dropped, tons of explosives dropped on Gaza than were dropped in Hiroshima. This doesn't make sense to me. Gaza is 30 miles long, 7 miles wide. It's incredibly dense population. And this is, by the way, according to Haaretz, that 40,000 Palestinians have been murdered. I believe they're getting those numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry. And here's what I would like to say to you, Rabbi, since you're quoting scripture, okay? The one that's relevant to me is, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. And if you'd like to dive into a little more scripture, I think what's relevant is Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. The fact that you would try to say, I am Jewish and this is what I believe, and do and say the things that you are doing. People can see and hear evil, and what you are doing right now is an act of evil. The lies that you are telling, not just on me, but also on my family members, are a good example for the world to see what we are referring to when we call something radical Zionism.
Damn.
That is what John of Patmos might have called a sick burn.
Yeah. Right. That is what you call a sick burn. And you're right. That is bringing the Jesus rage. Someone with that vocabulary that she could just go to and recite. Didn't look like she was reading. Looks like she had that memorized. You know, what a conversation like that exposes is, amongst other things, obviously, the secular nature of the Zionist project. So there's a guy who, you know, presents himself, Rabbi Shmuley, this great man of faith and deep religious conviction. And because of that, he is this servant to the Israeli state. She basically calls him out on the basic premise of that claim there, and does it quite well without missing a beat. And, you know, this is one of the first times we featured Candace Owens on the show. And, you know, I don't have anything for or against featuring her, but I thought this was a particular case of a Christian basically calling the rabbi. Basically, she's saying you're a poser. Basically, you're hiding behind Judaism. What you're saying is actually not rooted in any sort of like philosophical, moral, or religious conviction, which exposes the lie of radical Zionism. I mean, which she calls him out for. And his response to this as the interview goes on, and, you know, he rambles a lot. You know, this is a great tactic of Zionists, is they just spray words all over the place and go on and on and on. He goes on to say there's a 1-to-1 civilian death rate, which is lower than World War I. I mean, just absolute, utter nonsense.
Yeah,
he does not address
Yeah.
what she said. That's why this clip ends here, because he just comes right off that, because there is no defense against that. You're exposed right there. What she said there is accurate, and there is no defense against that. Just like, and this is why we say all the time, and, you know, this is not a new thing to say. This is why we distinguish Zionism from Judaism. Now, usually it's a couple of Jewish guys who get called upon to explain why that is. In this case, for a shiksa, she does a pretty good job.
She does, and it's important to have someone like Candace Owens who's coming out of that community addressing it, because as we were talking about the other day, and as Nick pointed out after he got attacked by the ADL,
right?
The majority of Zionists on planet Earth are Christian.
Yes.
They're not even Jews. So this gives the opportunity for somebody with authority in that community who speaks the language of Christians to tell Christians, you're wrong. You're wrong about Zionism. these are not Jews. These are not real Jews. This is not in keeping with Judaism, in a way that we cannot address that community. Because in the end, they just want Jews there for Jesus bait. They think the Jews who don't convert are going to hell. It's not that they like Jews. It's that they need the Jews there to fulfill the prophecy.
Exactly.
So she can speak to those people in a way that we cannot, because these Christian Zionists are anti-Semitic anyway. Their basic premise is anti-Semitic. It's that the Jews are wrong, and they need to be there for Jesus to come, and then they're either going to be corrected or they're going to be thrown into the fiery pit.
That's right.
They're going to get another chance to accept Jesus.
Yeah, right. Yes. And so good on her for pointing that out, and good on her for not being afraid to say that. I mean, this is part of what comes with being uncancelable. She's probably popular enough to the point where she's not really cancelable.
Sure.
Right. I mean, you have to reach a certain strata of the game to be able to just look a guy like Rabbi Shmuley in the eye and say a thing like that. Or a guy like Norm Finkelstein, who's already been canceled. Right. I mean, he's already been, ostracized from these networks. But, she obviously, and look, as Nick pointed out in that hotspot video, people have tried to deplatform her. They've tried to cancel her. They've tried to shut her down for saying these things. And so good on her for saying that. I mean, because that is something he was not expecting coming from her. When someone stands up to you like that in that kind of way. You
could tell, it was like he got smacked in the face with a shovel.
Exactly.
He had no response to that. He was like, oh shit, she's going there.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
She's pulling that Book of Revelation shit on me. But this is also a teachable moment. There's a lot of talk from a lot of grifting podcasters who have been profiting off of Gaza for the last 10 months about political maturity. And it is these very same people who will most often call people like Jimmy, like ourselves, red-brown alliance and betraying the left. You want to talk about political maturity? You make common cause where you can. You don't have to agree with everything that Candace Owens believes to make common cause with Candace Owens on genocide. That does not make you. You want to talk about political maturity? It is not backing power crystal wielding presidential candidates like Marianne Williamson. That's not political maturity. Political maturity is, Candace Owens has a voice that reaches a community we have no authority in, a community that will never listen to us. We could never go to that community and have the impact that this clip is going to have in that community in the way they think about Zionism. So, you work with her on that.
Right. Exactly. And she is one of the few examples of people on the right who have spoken out on this issue in a way that we think is important.
You think Nick agrees with Candace Owens on anything
exactly.
other than this?
Right. Exactly. Very well said. Very importantly stated. Okay. Let's see here. Eat hot chip and lie. Thank you for the £5. You can pull off the bald look, but Yulbrenner Tim Pool ain't. Big up Sarah Wilkinson. She's just suffering in the UK right now.
Yeah, we covered
Palestine journalism. Yeah, we did cover that. Absolutely. We covered that on the Rumble side on the previous stream. Eric Rousseau, lovely. The college experience in a censorious police state. What a wonderful environment for learning. Going into college debt is now really worth it. Yeah. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Build the campus wall, says Eric Rousseau. Thank you very much about that. Kenman G, Lauren Chen has another channel, Mediaholic, where she reviews TV and movies. Her takes are similar to Russ in some respects. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an anti-wokey, but not to the point that these people take it where I interpret it, particularly post-douchebag dialogues, as the other side of the same let's not talk about economics grift. Right. All of our problems are cultural problems, and some of them are, but certainly not all of them, perhaps not most of them, and I would argue the cultural problems are probably an outgrowth of the economic issues.
All right. Yep, I buy that. Okay. Oh, look, we got a CBD ad. You want to read CBD? I use CBD. I'll read a CBD ad.
You use CBD?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've used CBD for a long time.
You do?
Yeah.
I thought you were like straight as an arrow.
CBD is not THC. It sounds like you need to learn about CBD. You want me to teach you about CBD?
Sure. Keaton, you know, I've been hearing all the kids in the neighborhood are talking about CBD. Yeah. What is it?
All right. Well, let's explain what this is. All right. So what the hell happened? Oops.
Will it shrink my goiter?
Here we go. All right, I got it. All right. Hey, Rumble, that was not my fault. The app froze there. So, all right. So here we go. All right. So I do want to share a story real quick about a family that is sponsoring this CBD product and supporting this channel on Rumble. So 6 years ago, they had a brother who returned home from Afghanistan with pretty severe injuries. He basically turned into a shell of who he used to be. And at the same time, one of his brothers was diagnosed with something that less than 1,000 people in the United States have, and was given a few months left to live because of things. And we have to say things because this is not medical advice. The FDA does not regulate CBD. But several people suggested CBD to them. So this family tried dozens of products, but nothing helped. They realized what they wanted didn't exist, so they created what they wished existed. They made their own CBD line, and they started making it to help friends and family have CBD that they knew was clean and powerful as humanly possible. Doctors started asking to carry it, and it took off, so now they speak at medical conventions and help others across the U.S. While most companies have 1 to 10 compounds in CBD oil, their oil has up to 50 compounds or more. They make bombs, gummies, pet products, etc. They're called Emerald Med, so you should check these guys out. If you get CBD from them and don't notice a difference, they will provide a full refund. So if you want to support a company that supports Rumble and free speech and supports our channel, and you need a source for CBD that is real, click below to try Emerald Med for 40% off. So support extreme muscle and joint aches, support quality sleep, or even daytime calm. They're worth a try at least once. Refund if you don't like it. So click below right now and use the code for 40% off. So you can use that QR code for 40% off a refundable order. That's Emerald Med CBD. Yeah, CBD is not THC. It's not. It doesn't get you high or anything. It's not like a drug.
So what is it?
It's like a hemp oil, basically.
So it is a like marijuana.
It's a marijuana product, but it doesn't have THC, so it doesn't fuck you up. It just, when you take it for a couple weeks, it gets in your system. Oh, it's good for anxiety. Definitely good for sleep. I mean, for me at least, I've used it a lot of times. I use the Charlotte Web brand. That's a good one. The gummies, the oil Charlotte's Web is too expensive. But now I'm going to have these guys send me their stuff because that just came to us as a Rumble specific ad. So now I want to use their stuff and give it a try. And they'll send it to us for free to sample it. So I won't have to ask them for a refund if it doesn't work. But hopefully it does. Nice. CBD is good. I mean, CBD is definitely. I definitely buy that. I buy it. They have the tinctures where you can get the CBD and the THC in the same oil. But I don't want that. I don't want.
Right. That's what I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean,
you're an uptight guy, man. Weed would not agree with you.
It generally has.
You seem like the kind of guy who would get paranoid on weed.
I never got paranoid. I always just got tired. And, that the tinctures just started coming out. So, like, now I'm a little nervous to do it because now if I sleep with a bit, like, you're not supposed to be on any kind of substance if you share a bed with a baby because you don't want to sleep too deep because if you roll over.
You're
right.
Roll
so,
over,
like, you can't drink at night.
Right.
You don't want to pop a THC, gummy.
Right.
At night and then go to sleep next to a baby. And in my experience, I usually just take one when I take them at the end of the day as a sleep aid because it's better than like melatonin and shit.
Yeah, I definitely have like a marijuana dysphoria. It does not agree with me.
Yeah. Digging Deeper says for me, CBD is good for anxiety. THC gives me anxiety. Yeah, I've never got anxiety from like weed. I just would get very tired, and I found it made me dumber. I don't know. I feel like I'm just not sharp on it.
I'm with you. Yeah. I did all my weed between like the ages of 14 and 15. Pretty much. I was stoned for my 14th year of life. And then like a little bit here and there. But almost not at all after like 15. Because you know what happened actually? There was a big marijuana bust in New York City. They busted like this ship coming into New York, and you couldn't get weed for 2 weeks. And my head cleared, and I saw what an effect it was having on me, and that was it.
Right. I only tried it a few times. I never really liked it. I was never like pressured. I was up for trying it, but it never took for me. Okay, let's go here. Let's see. Infrared, eat hot chip and lie. Thank you for the £5. You can pull off the bald look, but Yul Brynner, Tim Pool ain't. Big up Sarah Wilkinson. She's suffering the. Okay, that's a good one there. Shinabilly, thanks for the $2. Skip my super chat about access journalism. Where did you give
what?
Did you give one? Oh, I see you gave it again. Did you give it again? All right, I'll get to that in a moment. We don't talk enough about how Obama's book, Dreams of My Fathers, is actually a manifesto about cultivating a fake persona and identity to launch a political career. Identity politics destroyed Dems' brains. Yeah, I never read Dreams of My Father, but from what I've heard, like that memoir was actually like pretty good as compared to like The Audacity of Hope, which was like clearly a campaign book. Like I've heard good reviews of that book, but I've never read it. Did you ever read that?
Of course not.
No. Well, just fair question. I mean, that book that came out at a time when we'd have been inclined to be curious about it. I mean, that came out before he ran for president, right? Didn't he put that out like when did that book come out? Was it like 2005, 2006?
I mean, look, if a person is still politically active, I assume their memoir is mostly self-aggrandizing bullshit. Yeah. Like, I just don't even really read those types of memoirs from anybody. If it's at the end of their life and there's a lot of score settling going on, maybe.
Right. Yeah,
there'll be something going on there. I have Khrushchev's memoir. Khrushchev's memoir is really interesting.
Oh, interesting. That's a good point. But I heard because
his memoir is very much settling scores.
There you go. Gavin Hillock, only an idiot tries to guilt trip a Catholic mammy. Thank you, Gavin. Appreciate that. Brock Sampson, read this. Rabbi Shmuley is the personification of a rabid Zionist. Zionism, has hijacked Judaism and our government. Truly disgraceful.
Yeah, man. That guy is like the fucking COVID strain of anti-Semitism. I look at that guy and I'm like, Jews are going to spend 2 centuries living you down.
Yeah, and a lot of it, like, he is a straight up troll in a lot of ways too. Like some of it. Yeah, I mean, look, he's a dildo salesman. I mean, he's a self promoter, right? He's a provocateur. Right, he's like the Joel Osteen of Judaism. You know what I mean? Like, he's a showman. Like, yeah. I mean, these guys, are an embarrassment, for sure. Name my taco. Pumpkin spice clad AOC was seen crying at the city college fence. A pumpkin spice clad AOC. I like that one. Thank you, Name my taco. Appreciate that. The Judge 51, are you guys going to cover the Rescuing the Republic rally? Actually, yes, we are. That is going to be a weekend of on the street journalism there because we have a couple events that day here. China Billy, I'm assuming this is what you're asking about. Is it politically mature not to ask pro-genocide guests questions about genocide? Stop ducking the criticism because we all like Jimmy, me included. Are you talking about his Matt Walsh interview? Is that what you're talking about? I mean, I know he was there to talk about his movie. And he is going to speak at the Rescuing the Republic rally, which, does have some Zionists on the panel, but he's not one of them. And, I would love to. I would actually love to cover that rally in person, but Russ is going to be there, and I'm going to be in Kingston that day for another rally.
So what's the deal? Do I need a press pass, or is this an outdoor thing?
What's that?
Like, it's not like the douchebag dialogues, right?
I don't think you need it.
It's like an outdoor thing.
They're going to be at the monument. I mean, there will be a press tent, so you might get a press tent.
Right. I mean, my press
But if Russ
badge
gets
might get me into the press tent.
Russ will certainly ask Tulsi Gabbard about Zionism, I would imagine, if we can get there.
Yes, I will be asking a lot of questions of the people, of the panelists there. No, me and Keaton, a little behind the scenes, we're going back and forth on that because Walsh is promoting a movie. I would like to try to get him on. There's no guarantee he will come on,
right?
But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of trans's coverage as a calling card, so,
right. Exactly.
So maybe he would come on.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I'll just say this, Shina Billy, stop ducking the criticism. One thing I just have to say is that, like where we have disagreements with people, a lot of times, these disagreements come up, off air because we're, friends. Like that's how friends handle things. You attack somebody on the air because, especially a guy like Jimmy who's been nothing but gracious to us for so long. And who is an anti-Zionist, and I hope he does. If he's speaking at the Rescue the Republic rally, I would hope he gets a word in about that for sure. But it's no mystery. Hold on, let me just finish this point. It's no mystery to anybody who watches the show, including Jimmy himself, that we've had a disagreement about RFK for as long as we've known Jimmy, for much longer than we've known Jimmy. He brings it up. I know you don't like him. I think Jimmy feels that RFK is more redeemable than we do. That's what I would say. That is our disagreement about that. And we know that exists, and we talk about it the way friends talk about things amongst ourselves. Like, if you think you're going to bait us into starting a flame war online with someone, who has been very kind to us and gracious towards us and who we bring on our show and he brings on ours, I mean, that's not the way we're going to handle things.
Besides that, having done a few interviews at this point, when you bring on somebody to talk about a specific subject and to talk about their movie, it's a little tricky. Like what's in bounds and what's out of bounds. Like, do you get into that? Is it dirty pool? Are you kind of smacking them in the back of the head with a folding chair when you lured them into the ring to talk about something completely different? And Jimmy did push back on when he started talking about prison populations and mass incarceration. And Jimmy started talking about powdered cocaine versus crack cocaine.
Right.
But then, he laid out the things that they might disagree or agree on. And, Walsh mentioned some of the things he would agree on and some of the things he wouldn't agree on. I get the impression Walsh was going somewhere, so the time was limited. And that's another thing. Look, I mean, if we get him on, I have long been very interested in Walsh because to me, and Jimmy actually mentioned this on the show, because I texted Jimmy that the same day. My theory is if Walsh had been born 20 years earlier, he would have been on the left. That's my theory.
Did he say that in the interview?
Did
he use that line?
Well, what I said exactly to Jimmy is he would have been a writer on SNL, which is kind of means the same thing. Yeah, and he did say that to Walsh.
Oh, so he quoted you.
He quoted, yes, and attributed me, which I appreciated.
Oh, nice.
So if we were to get Walsh on, yeah, man, I would be fascinated to talk to him about that because he is legit, not grading on a curve. He is legitimately a talented, kind of dry comedian. He has this great dry humor, very funny, very good at doing these gotcha documentaries and bringing that dry humor to bear. And his whole personality style is something that at the height of the kind of counterculture comedy era would have automatically coded as left. It wouldn't have even been a question. Of course, that guy's on the left, right? To see somebody with that classic left, sarcastic, iconoclastic personality style attacking institutions from the right, I think it says something about where we are today. And some of the positions that he has that are very extreme on, say, abortion and things like that. it's something I would love to ask him about. Like, I would love to get into, what he's thinking. Now, clearly he has very traditional family values. He has a very traditional family. I think he has like 5 kids or something.
Fucking bastard.
Yeah, he's beating you.
He's beating me.
He's beating you.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, man, over the course of my life, my sex life and all of that was definitely defined by the post hippie era and the transformation of sexual mores that ensued. Do I, in retrospect and hindsight, feel that a lot of those ideas have benefited society more than they've undermined it? No, I don't. Honestly, man. I lost my virginity. I was 15 in the great post, and my girlfriend was 14. In the great post 60s ethos, she basically slept at my house 3 to 4 days a week. Like I kind of had like a live-in girlfriend at 15. Was that good for me? Was I like mature enough for that? I in hindsight, I don't think so. I don't really think so. So I am sympathetic to the idea, particularly when you look at, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, when you look at how people from intact traditional families, and I'm not talking about heterosexual, I just mean 2-parent household, when you look at how they perform in life versus people who don't come from that, I think a lot of the liberal project has been a failure in terms of how it has impacted society and how it has impacted individuals. So I would be very interested to talk to someone like Matt Walsh, who he practices what he preaches. I read him not as a grifter. I think he really has principles. I mean, look, they kicked him off YouTube. He says, and I have no reason to doubt it, that it cost him $450,000.
They didn't kick him off. They demonetized him.
They they didn't kick him off. They demonetized him for misgendering, which he refused to compromise on. And I'm sure he could have worked something out with them that he could have saved a little face. I get the impression he's actually committed to his ideological positions, some of which I very strongly disagree with, some of which I think are actually monstrous. But it's complicated. It's complicated. That's why I feel it would be a very productive discussion to have him on and get into some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, not only do I resent him for having more kids than me, but I resent anybody who can grow a mustache all the way across the upper lip. I can't. Yeah. I've always had this annoying patch of skin right here that just never, and it looks weird. It doesn't look elegant, I can only grow a mustache to look scruffy and disheveled. You can't pull off the elegant beard and mustache look with this patch here.
You can't do the Clark Gable.
Right, exactly. Right. You can only look scruffy. Which, I mean, for the time being, I can make that work. But it would be nice to be able to grow like an elegant beard and mustache, and I'll never be able to do that. And he can. So that is another reason why I have a resentment towards him. Let's see here. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Shmuley inspired RFK Jr. to go hard down the wrong path. CBD is a cannabinoid, but it's not hallucinogenic. Yes, that is correct, baby Ethernet. Thank you. Did you see the podcast of the 2 Zionists talking crazy shit about how they really feel about Palestine? I lost friendships for not being pro-Israel. Yes, well, we talked about that on Jimmy's show last night. He brought us on specifically for that segment, with apparently Matt Walsh sitting in the room. See, I didn't know he was going to be in the studio because he said Matt Walsh is here. So I thought he meant here, like waiting in the back. Because I made the joke. He said, I hope he's not watching. But maybe he was. Maybe he was sitting in the room.
He probably was, from my experience hosting that show.
Yeah.
If he was in the room, then yeah.
Maybe he was on the premises.
You hear everything.
Oh, boy.
Because you're not on headphones.
Might be hard to get them now. Shina Billy, thanks for the $2. I'm trying not to bait anyone. Gaza is my red line. As is ours. Absolutely. Let's see here. Name my taco. Oh no, we already got this one. Oh yeah. So the reason why we're excited about the Rescuing the Republic weekend is because Russ is going to be in DC covering the Rescue Republic rally. But I want to give a shout out to Kinky, who alerted us to this, which prompted me to Google this. So in Kingston, New York, on September 28th, which I believe is the day of the Rescue the Republic rally, or maybe it's the day before, because Rescue the Republic is same as Rage Against War Machine. And so you have Rage Against the War Machine day 1, Rescue the Republic
that's
day 2.
day 1, and that's
so you're going to
day
do
2,
both.
yeah.
Obviously, you figure you may as well do both if you're going to do one.
Sure.
But in Kingston, there's going to be an Occupy Peace and Freedom rally in Kingston, New York, which is just about 40 minutes from where I live. So I could definitely swing that. With a killer lineup, especially for Kingston. Like, usually the suburbs don't get lineups like this. So you have at the Occupy Peace and Freedom rally, which we will plug as the date approaches more formally, you got Max Blumenthal, Anya Parampil, Judge Napolitano.
Yeah, that's
Scott
a crazy
Ritter,
lineup they got to go to Kingston.
And Gerald Celente. So Scott Ritter, Gerald Celente, Max and Anya, and Judge Napolitano. That's a pretty crazy lineup for Kingston. So that's going to be a really fun one. So we're looking forward to that. So that is going to be a weekend of on-the-ground coverage. Pretty packed weekend. Okay, we will keep going here. John M. in Minnesota, have you seen the recent Wall Street Journal piece, Why Anti-Zionism is Anti-Semitism? So frustrating.
Well,
They're not letting up. Well, yeah.
It's not surprising, the Wall Street Journal.
No, not surprising. I was going to use their article for something today. There was something today. I forget which segment it was. I don't think it was a protester segment. It must have been something else. But it was just so slanted. I'm like, you know what? I can't even use this one. You know, sometimes we'll feature a piece that has an editorial bent we don't agree with, so we can, like, you know, and we'll say, hey, disclaimer, this is informative, but it has a slant. But it was so crazy I didn't even do it. Canadians are also the most propagandized. They will say, I'm against socialism. I am like you, so you are for Canada to scrap healthcare. No, rest my case. Thank you, GHU 81. Also, Canadians Jews were the first 3,000 years ago. I am like, then give your homes back to the natives, which you put in residential schools. No, rest my case. Why do you say no, rest my case after every super chat? Is that your signature? Is that your sign off?
That's like his Tim Pool beanie.
Yeah. Whoa, Candace, can we get some Maiden for the Synagogue of Satan? There you go. Thank you very much. I heard San Francisco University divested from 4 weapons manufacturers that include Lockheed. That would be good. We might have to do that on Sunday if that happened. I did not see that, but I will look into that. Name My Taco says THC doesn't give you anxiety. It forces you from acknowledging the anxiety feelings that you already have. That's why it's so good for introspection. Interesting theory. I didn't feel anxious. I just felt tired and dumb. I felt like my brain was very slow when I was on it. Right?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a brain wiring thing. Like, when I was getting high with a bunch of, like, violent metalheads. So it probably brings me right back to that when I smoke weed now. It was a very paranoia-inducing environment. Let's put it that way.
Right. GHU, regarding Jimmy, I think they are more referring to C-class actor Rob Schneider, who is for free speech but wants Palestinian voices silent and kept going about Islamist propaganda. Well, he's for. I mean, I know Schneider was an RFK surrogate.
I didn't see that one.
Well, Schneider was an RFK surrogate. Like, actually, I think endorsed him and actually did some events for the campaign. And this is why I said, you know, early on, as soon as I found this out about RFK, that's what soured me to him, because I knew that this would bleed into other issues. You can't be that vehemently pro-Israel and be pro-free speech. Like, it just bleeds into other things, right? Where inevitably that's going to come, you know, head to head with free speech interests. I mean, you had, I forget which of those long screeds from Bill Ackman RFK retweeted, but it was one of them where, you know, Bill Ackman has been, I mean, you talk about a guy who gives Jews a bad reputation, a billionaire throwing his money around to squash people who criticize Israel. Yeah, I mean, once you're for that, you can't be for free speech. So, and that's why I recognized that very early on. That's what soured me to RFK from the very beginning. It was as soon as he took back that Roger Waters tweet, when he tweeted in defense of Roger Waters, and then hours later, never mind.
That was
it.
Big red flag.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, that was everything I needed to know. All right. Let's see here. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Jimmy strongly advised RFK Jr. being against Palestine would cripple his campaign. Yeah, he's told us stories about that I don't think he's told on the air. It's possible Jimmy's hoping against hope that both Trump and RFK are temporarily extreme Zionists for campaign funds. I don't think they're temporarily extreme Zionists. It would not surprise me whatsoever if, Trump were to take it a step further as to not pressure humanitarian aid into Gaza. You might not even get any aid in. If it's him, he might just want to expedite the process. Let's go. Let's lay the foundation for the hotels. I mean, that seems to be his interest. That was in the news a few, right? Wasn't one of the first stories that came out post October 7th was Jared Kushner's plans to
put
make Gaza a resort
Gaza,
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that to me is where Trump would be going. I don't think Trump is ideologically committed to Zionism. I think, what did he talk about? It's amazing what they've done here. What they've done, meaning as a development project. It's amazing what Israel's done here. They took this desert and they built buildings. They built nice buildings. I mean, that's the way he thinks of it.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
No one's ever seen anything like it.
You got skyscrapers here in the desert, and they keep the brown ones out. It's very nice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's keep going. We got one more segment on the day. All right, so this is an extension of our labor coverage from the post-Labor Day show, the post-Labor Day segment. Russell found this one and said, we have to do this one. I mean, if this isn't our brand of gallows humor, I don't know what is.
Yes. Employee found dead in cubicle after apparently dying their days earlier. This is the big late-stage capitalism story of the week. In a late-stage capitalist tragedy, an Arizona bank employee was found dead in her cubicle on Tuesday after clocking in on a Friday and apparently never clocking back out. As Arizona, the Wells Fargo is like a roach motel for employees. As Arizona's KPNX local broadcaster reports, Tempe police are investigating the death of 60-year-old Wells Fargo employee Denise Prudhomme after her body was found at her desk last week, and officials believe she may have died there up to 4 days prior. Building records indicated that Prudhomme had scanned into the Wells Fargo corporate office where she worked at around 7 a.m. on August 16th and never scanned back out. Police came to the scene on August 20th after security workers found her unresponsive, and she was declared dead upon arrival. This is like one of the opening scenes in 6 Feet Under. With her cubicle on the building's 3rd floor away from the main aisle, it seems that the unfortunate worker may have died at some point during the workday that Friday and was quite literally left to rot over the weekend before anyone noticed. What's worse, several employees had, per an anonymous employee who spoke to the local NBC affiliate, complained of a foul odor coming from the area surrounding her desk, but it was presumed to have come from faulty plumbing. While most of the people in Prudhomme's office reportedly work remotely, the same concerned worker told KPNX that the bank employs 24-hour security and that Prudhomme's body should have been discovered sooner. Quote, "That's the scary part," the employee told the news outlet. "It's negligence in some part." Tempe police have not released many details about Prudhomme's cause of death beyond saying they don't currently suspect any foul play was involved. Nevertheless, this is a chilling cautionary tale that, per the anonymous employee who spoke to the NBC affiliate, Wells Fargo hasn't spoken to employees about. All right, so we're going to take a look at what one employee had to say about this.
Anonymously.
Was just uncomfortable.
Again, calling on the company to do more.
Body was there about 4 days before anybody found it, before anybody walked up to her. And just to say hi, make sure she's okay.
4
She was just
days.
laying on her desk.
A Wells Fargo spokesperson previously sent 12 News a statement saying, in part, "We are deeply saddened by the tragic loss of our colleague at our Tempe office," adding counselors through our employee assistance consulting service are available to support employees. An employee tells me their direct management offered those services, addressed the incident, and told workers the building was thoroughly cleaned.
And a Wells Fargo spokesperson did not have new information to share with me tonight. The Maricopa County Medical Examiner is investigating the cause of death. In studio, Gabriela Becerra.
Okay. All right. So I have a lot of thoughts. Okay. One, wow. How alienated a society have we created? There are so many things that we just take for granted as normal. The fact that we've created a society where people are so alienated from their labor, that they're so alienated from each other, that something like this could even happen, where somebody could just die at their desk and have so little relationship or human connection to any of the other people that work there that nobody would even notice it, that people would come close enough to notice the odor and not notice the dead person sitting at the desk.
Ugh.
That is incredible. And just a second point on a personal note that I will make, I've been doing a lot of traveling the last few years. Man, that's part of why. Like, I've always had the underlying logic, maybe because, my mother was very ill. So death was always kind of a shadow in my life from very early on, like the concept that this person could die.
Right.
So the idea of doing things because you're supposed to has never made any sense to me. To live your life because you're afraid of what might happen if you do this or do that, it's never made sense to me, because I had an awareness of my own mortality from pretty much from childhood. Look at this, man. Look at this. Like, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Like, to live your life like this? I mean, shit. You'd be better off being freaking living in a tent, to me, to my mind. Like, what is that security for? Now you're dead forever. What was your life for, to live it like that? And on a broader level, man, do we want to have a civilization that puts people in that position? Like, that's not human. That's not human. That's not a human life, to just push around papers for some company and then drop dead at your desk at 60. What was her life for?
And then no one notices.
And then no one notices. And now she's just going to be, buried, forgotten.
Yeah.
Terrible. It's horrible.
It's a cubicle. Yeah. I mean, how? Yeah. I mean, it's almost impossible to fathom how it could go unnoticed. But yes, I mean, that you talk about alienation. I mean, there's no more morbid example than that. There's no more morbid example than that. I mean, it seems impossible. That seems like something that if you were to write it in a sci-fi novel about the future, people would say, well, I understand what you're going for, but this could never happen in real life. Like, it would require almost too much suspension of disbelief.
Well, it would play a satire. It would play a satire.
Exactly. It would play as over-the-top satire. Hey, this could never really happen. But isn't this farce? And that's Wells Fargo. It's Wells Fargo. Eric Rousseau, Weekend at Wells Fargo. Just gave us that one. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and the fact that they came back to work, this person had so little connection to the coworkers. There was no one who would have, as a matter of course, walked over to the desk to say hi.
Right. Yep.
So that's, I mean, for me, that plays on two levels. On a personal level, don't let yourself become that person. On a societal level, what kind of a sick society have we created that such a story is intelligible?
Right. Right. Yeah. Agreed. That is, we've been talking about this for a while, how, the country is going to undergo a social collapse. And there was that great article that came out years and years ago. It was on Medium, way back in the Medium heyday, where the guy was from, I forget what country he was talking about. You know it. You're going to know what I'm talking about when I describe it. He says, I've lived through a social collapse. Doesn't happen. It doesn't happen all at once. There are these little stories that just add up day after day after day, and they don't go away. This would fit right into that, right?
Yeah,
This
he
would
was
fit
from.
into that.
He was from. I believe it was a Middle Eastern or North African country that had
I
collapsed.
forget where. Yeah, but he said, it's not that all of a sudden you wake up and it's like a meteor landed on Main Street.
Right.
It's like little by little, you just notice things aren't functioning the way they're supposed to. Strange events occur, like this one, with increasing frequency, and before you know it, the society becomes unrecognizable. And this is a symptom of that, if anything.
Yeah.
All right. Miserable Liv from Texas. Okay, Keaton, I let your lack enthusiasm of Seinfeld go because now we know he's a genocidal creep. But you've never watched The Office? Come on, I must reconsider my monthly support. Well, I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. I've admitted that even after acknowledging he's a genocidal creep.
He's huge on Seinfeld.
Oh, huge on Seinfeld. I've won Seinfeld trivia games at bars and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't have a lack of enthusiasm for Seinfeld. Yeah, no, not at all. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. The Office, I never watched it. I don't know enough about it to know, I don't not like it. I just never watched it. It was one of those things I just never got into. I don't watch TV that often. It's one of those shows people tell you have to watch, you have to watch, you have to watch, and you never watch. I never watched The Wire either. And people always say you have to watch The Wire, you have to watch The Wire. At a certain point,
the Wire is that's more the kind of thing I'll watch. Like a network sitcom. I couldn't tell you the last time I watched a network sitcom. I'm not saying it's not good, but do I assume it's not good if it was successful on network TV? Yeah, I kind of do.
Well, that's the thing. Like a Family Guy used to be the thing everybody loved.
Right.
When I was in college, everybody liked Family Guy, and The Office was one of those things.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. Hey, look, if a bunch of Gentiles are praising a comedy show, it's probably not very good.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
that's the thing. Seinfeld always had its Jewish base.
That's why I'll always get into an album 20 years after it was popular.
Yeah, there you go.
It takes 20 years for me to be convinced it was actually good.
That it was good. Yeah. Turns out it was too fervent a Jewish base on Seinfeld, but who knew at the time?
I just stumbled on In Utero.
What's that?
I just stumbled on In Utero.
Okay. Yeah. The people
good
Infinite,
stuff there.
Yeah.
That Cobain.
Oh yeah.
He played a mean guitar.
Yep, he could play a mean guitar. Do you all get a bigger piece of ad revenue via Rumble as opposed to YouTube? I have a YouTube channel added to Rumble, and even though I'm sub 50 on most of my vids, a few dozen got like 3 cents. Is that what you posted? Sorry, People Infinite. I had your full thing. You must have run out of characters for my copy paste job. The payout, as I understand, is similar. The only issue is apparently the Rumble ads don't run on videos across all the platforms. So like you can get a lot of views on a certain, I don't know if they're running ads on the TV app. So like you might have X amount of views on Rumble. Like if you have the same amount of views on Rumble and YouTube, I think they'll only run ads on, X percentage on Rumble, whereas YouTube will run them on everything, regardless of the platform, like a TV. That's how I understand it. That's how they explained it to me. But as far as the payout, I think it's the same amount. It seems that way to me, according to the back end. But good luck to you, People Infinite. Makes me hopeful, LOL. Great work as always, dudes. You keep me sane. Thank you very much. Kenman G says Lauren Chen is ideologically similar to Candace Owens. On her YouTube, she has had Dave Smith on and also Dan Cohen. She's anti-war and not allied with Israel. There you go. Yeah, I had never even heard of her.
Yeah, like I said, man. I mean, does she do videos dedicated to that kind of thing? Because I've never seen. I mean, she might have mentioned it while talking about the transes or the DEIs or but clearly that's her focus.
Yeah,
maybe she has mentioned these things in passing. I've never seen her dedicate a video to that subject, which I'm not saying I'm not an expert in Lauren Chen,
right.
But I've never seen her do a video focused on that subject.
Yeah, like I said, I had never heard of her. GHU, sorry for my Tim Pool English. The no would be the Canadian responses after they make contradictory statements, as they are propagandized. Socialism is bad. They have free health care. So the no, okay. So after they make a contradictory statement, they say no. So they say, so like they say A sometimes. Is no part of it too? French fries a little too salty, no? That would be a contradictory statement, right? Since French fries are supposed to be salty.
Jews use that too.
It's cold in here, no? Is it draft in here?
Cold
no?
in here, no. It's
No?
drafty, no.
Yeah, no. We've been waiting a long time, no?
Here.
We've been at the kitchen slow today, no?
And then new is the other one.
New?
You don't know that one?
No, what's that? Use that in a sentence.
That's like, do you believe this? It's like, and then I ordered the chicken. He brings out a hamburger. New?
No, I never heard that one before.
You never heard that?
No, he brings out a hamburger. New? I wonder if Rabbi Shmuley uses that one.
I am sure he does.
Yeah. Civilian ratio, civilian to combatant death ratio, 1-to-1. New?
No.
New?
No.
Yeah. Sparky, thanks for the $10.
I'm
sorry.
It must be rooted in something in Yiddish.
It's got to be. Yeah, you would think. I've never heard of that, though. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Jimmy strongly advised RFK Jr. against being anti-Palestine in a live interview, and well before October 7th. I don't buy that RFK Jr. and Trump are just temporary Zionists for campaign funds either.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sparky. Sparky,
nor Harris. You know, you got this. Everyone wants to bullshit themselves on both sides about this. Wait till they win. Why?
Right.
Especially on the Trump side, I don't get that because he's already been president. There's absolutely no reason to think he'd have a different policy. He didn't when he was president.
Right. And, you know, I think by the time he takes office, the question is going to be what to do with Gaza. I don't think the combat operations are going to be. I don't think there's enough of Gaza left, tragically, to sustain that. So the question is going to be, well, what to do with this land? And if you don't think Trump is, you know, foaming at the mouth to put a hotel up there and, you know, rebuild that, as basically the Atlantic City of Israel, that's what I think is in store for Gaza if he wins.
I mean, that would make a hell of a Poltergeist sequel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Rabbi Shmuley helped inspire RFK Jr. to go hard down the wrong path. Shinabilly says Keaton hasn't watched The Wire. Racist. Just kidding. Yeah. No, I've thought about it. I used to get recommended that show so often. I'm like, all right, I'm intimidated by The Wire because, you know, it's just a lot of time to devote to a show. Then again, I spend so much time explaining to people why I don't watch it. It might be worth it just to watch it. That might come out in the wash, right?
Have you watched The Wire? The Wire was great. Yes, I pulled in utero with that. I watched it probably 10 years after it went off the air. Binge watched the whole series, but it was great.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so this is why Russell and I get along, because he's a guy who's watched The Wire, loves The Wire, and in the entire time he's known me has never told me I have to watch The Wire. Because most people who watch The Wire, they tell people, you got to watch it. You got to watch it.
Well, you know, the same guy did Treme, which I also loved.
Yeah, I know that. It's weird. He never had another like smash hit show though. All right, we are almost out of here, folks. But let's try and move a little coffee before we close the lights here. So, have you heard of the recent advertising scandal? I'll break it down for you. The CEO of Rumble, Chris Pavlovsky, recently released an email from Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Donuts, and that email explicitly states the right-wing culture of Rumble is too polarizing. In other words, Dunkin' Donuts has a problem with right-wing culture and wants nothing to do with it or with Rumble. So here's the solution. Stop buying products that don't support free speech and start supporting brands that do. The competing brand that we should get behind is Rumble 1775 Coffee, and for a limited time, Rumble is offering buy 2 bags and get 1 free. These bags are 16-ounce bags. That's what's cool. You get more bang for your buck because you get a bigger bag of coffee. You know, when I buy a coffee here, it's 10 ounces. I make coffee for 3 or 4 days, and that's done. The bag's over. So this, you get almost double the amount of a standard bag, and you get buy 2, get 1 free when you use the code DUNKIN, DUNKIN. Great troll on Rumble's part there. So go to 1775coffee.com and enter promo code DUNKIN to get this limited time deal. All righty. We got some more Rumble rants to read here. Goo81, thank you. Same thing with Israel. They say Jews were there first 3,000 years ago as original inhabitants. Okay, will you give back your homes to First Nations? They will say no. And A means yeah in Canada, LOL. Yeah, I know. A, yeah.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, A is one that I know. I never knew the no. I never knew that one, but I knew the A. Okay, Sparky, you may remember Lauren Chen as the roaming millennial. No, I don't remember her at all. Do you remember the roaming millennial?
No.
No?
I don't know that one. Mm-mm.
All right. Sparky, remember Kamala married her APAC handler. Haha, good one. And let's see here. Josephine Ramos, thanks for the $5. No is to engage you. Keep the convo going. High social banter. Example, I smell like a goat. No? All right. See, we learn how to talk north of the border.
Okay.
I never knew that. I never knew any of that. Learn something new every day. Alrighty, folks. Hey, before we go, I want you all to like this stream, share this stream if you can, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Rumble.
Make love to the stream.
Yeah. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, go follow our Rumble channel, rumble.com/DoDissidents, because tonight at 8 p.m., we are premiering our interview with one of the defendants in the Newburgh 4 case. This was an extremely intense interview. We're super proud of it. We think it's really important to highlight a story like this. And it's about an hour and 20 minutes. It is a roller coaster ride. You will feel a lot of things watching this. This is an extremely, extremely powerful interview that we're very excited about. The link will be up shortly after the conclusion of this stream because on Rumble, we can only plan one stream at a time. So there's no link now, but there will be a link. And, of course, before we leave, we want to do our patron scroll. Like I said, I was putting this off to the end because let's see as an experiment now if we get any mic issues. Because when I did a screen share before we started the show, I heard some mic issues. So let me know if you can hear me. But if you would like to become a supporter, you can?
Yes. Well, not now, but there was a weird thing when you switched.
There's like a popping, right? There's like a crumbling when I switch it over, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what about now? Can you hear it now? Testing,
now,
1, 2.
No, seems fine now.
All right, I'll do my shtick. And then just let me know after the shtick if it starts popping. So my shtick is, if you go to patreon.com/DoDissidents, you can support the show for as little as $5 a month. You get call-in access to our weekly Q&As, which happen every Sunday night after the regularly scheduled live stream. As a Rumble exclusive, you get your name up in lights here. You also get access to exclusive member-only live streams, which are interactive. So on those live streams, we do about an hour's worth of content, and then we take about an hour's worth of phone calls, and we do those twice a month. We're also going to be live streaming Russell's weird New York walking tour for Halloween as part of this, and we're going to add a film club. So we're actually really beefing up the perks.
Cranking up,
a member, trying to make it worth your while. Becoming a member helps us censor-proof the operation. That's obviously what the Rumble ads do as well. In this era of censorship, you have to YouTube-proof your operation here, so that is what we're trying to do here. Not that we don't love YouTube, we do, but we need memberships to censor-proof this job in case the hammer drops, which, as we know, it can at any moment. So patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, and also you can go to DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble right now, you can hit that bright red join button underneath the video screen and join our locals. If you join either of these as free members, which you can, you will get access to our newsletter. So if you do not want to become a paid member, if you can't become a paid member, join the newsletter at DoDissidents.substack.com, and you will get alerts as to when and where we are going live, hours before each stream. You also get audio podcast versions of every stream. But we will see you live on Sunday, but we will be hanging out in the chat tonight for our interview with David Williams, which premieres at 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. That is a Rumble exclusive video. And we want to get as big an audience for that as we can, since, as Russell said earlier, interviews are like that are the real reason you want to do the show. For sure. All righty, everybody. Is that everything we got? We all caught up to
Everything
date? Yep,
we
nothing
got.
there. Nothing there. Check.
Taking my bike out.
There you go. Beautiful.
Lovely day.
It is a lovely day, that's for sure. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any last-minute Rumble rants here. Did we miss any? Yeah, we did miss a couple. Couple came in. GHU says, although simple no would be more likely a nah in Canadian. Okay. And Bonzo Bean says, no. French say ne sais pas. Germans say ne. Okay, all right. There you go. Now I get it. That explains it a little clearer. All right, folks. Thank you very much for being here. Pleasure seeing you guys this week. We'll be hanging out in the chat tonight at 8 p.m. on the Rumble premiere. So make sure you follow our Rumble channel so you get that alert. And we will see you back here live Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thank you very much for waking up with us this morning. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.